the biggest mother of them all because you've got the AI bubble perched on top of private equity and private credit. This turtles all the way down. But if I were to call a market top and a crash, SpaceX was a $1.5 trillion NFT, best I can tell. Cisco in 1999 had a 30% growth in revenues. None of this stuff has anything to do with investing. Malinvestment of the AI bubble is 17 times the malinvestment of the dot-com bubble. There's never been an asset class in history that got overvalued that didn't find its way back to cheap.
Yeah, we can. You can hear us.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. All right.
Maybe it's the R stands for retarded. Maybe that's the.
Well, so far I can't argue with you. It seems that way, doesn't
it? there is a certain parallel universe going on here.
Yeah. All right. Well, somebody's
are
trying.
SNRIs different than SSRIs, Dave?
So my wife is coming off SNRIs, which turn out to be a horrific class of drug. I can't rule out the possibility that it has saved people's lives, but they throw standard people on them. And she was on Effexor for about 15 years at least at a high dose for pain management, which because there's rumor that could help probably in the New England Journal of Medicine where they lie their ass off about what could work. And she has to go off it for complex reasons. And so we tapered down over what we thought was a rational tapering period to find out that if you, instead of listening to the authorities tell you how to taper off, you listen to people who've tapered off, what you discover is that a calendar year of tapering is bare minimum.
Wow.
And then you discover people who have tapered off, whose brains are completely fucked up and they've been fucked up for years. And then you learn about people who go back on it for obvious reasons. And some percentage of them, when they go back on it, they don't recover. Mm. And so it's really just a nasty situation. So she has these wild panic attacks and has trouble thermoregulating, and she doesn't have brain zaps for those who know this world. But it's conceivable it's not a fixable problem. And it's all because Pharma wants to sell us Effexor and Prozac and all that crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, again, I'm sorry to hear that. And I was telling you some personal stories with family members on SSRIs and just being thrust upon them during a time of deep stress, but trying to wean them off. It's like, it's not easy. And I mean, I think it gets to the crux of a lot of our ongoing conversations, both the three of us together, and then Dave, you and I independently over the years, which is like this rot at the core of the system, which is fucked up with bad incentives and just manifest in different ways. And in this case, the pharma industry.
Well, the one I jumped on first before we even tapered off is just by coincidence. They wanted to put her on statins because she had they had her legs checked for circulation because she's had so many surgeries. And one of her legs was getting 50%. And the doc wanted to put her on statins immediately. And I'd heard bad things about statins, so I said, no, we're waiting. And she went to a specialist, and the specialist said, no, your leg's been hammered about 25 times by surgeons. It's not about statins. Your cholesterol's fine. This is nuts. She went back to her GP, and her GP still wanted her to go on statins. And then you read about statins, and you discover that, well, first and foremost, your body has cholesterol for a fucking reason. It's not there as a byproduct or anything. It's not something you want to drive to zero. And the side effects of statins turn out to be excruciating lower limb pain, which, by the way, that's her problem, and swelling and early onset dementia. And there's people who talk about ending up in wheelchairs within 2 years. People end up demented within 2 years. I mean, it's a real nightmare. So I actually went on Twitter and said, give me an anecdote. Give me anything you got. Has someone in your family been on a statin, and what was your experience? And I got about 500 responses, and I would say 495 of them were don't touch those things. And
well,
then,
I'll give you another. I'll be part of that 5. I've been on it for 14 years. half, my family on the mother's side is dead in their 40s from heart. So it's
see, that's a good case then.
Yeah. But I mean, I had buddies tell me right away, 14 years ago, dude, you can't take Lipitor. I take Lipitor, and they go, it's gonna, your joints, everything you're saying, I believe. But I asked my doctor, who I really love, because he saved my life a few times, and I said, is it acute or is it chronic? And he goes, it's acute. You'll know within a short period of time. I go, so it's not like I take them for 14 years and then suddenly, now the early onset dementia, clearly I've succumbed to that, but
that's what the R stands for, by the way. The R,
right.
I think, is
right.
Totally appropriate.
Well, you can't say that. That's very offensive. So anyway,
I know.
But I'm just saying it's not. I agree. For many people, it's a bad choice. And in fact, I know someone who took a much smaller dose than me and had to cut it in half because immediately started having, or actually went off it because of symptoms like you're saying. So I think it just, everybody's body, is different, and I've had things happen to me that, it's not in the literature, but I'm telling you, it's the drug, and so I think, like you said a minute ago, like, instead of trusting the quote unquote experts, trust people who've been through this, like with the SNRIs.
That's exactly, that's the epiphany. I used to tell people, when you go on a new drug, go on Twitter. This seems crazy to people. They go, what are you talking about? You're getting your medical advice from Twitter? I said, go on Twitter, search the drug name, and just start reading posts. And my wife was on a drug called Keppra that made her batshit crazy, angry. Now, batshit crazy is bad. Angry on top of it. Yeah. And I'm trying to tell her doctor something's wrong. My wife's a bitch, and he's going, mine is too. What's your point, right? And it turns out that I spent 2 hours one Saturday night on a call with a neurologist, and I got to the Keppra part. And he says, how long has she been on? And about 3 months. And he said, it's the Keppra. It is the Keppra. And it's called Keppra Rage. So I go on Twitter after that. This is before I realized I should do this. And there it is, all over Twitter. All over Twitter. So, by the way, back to the statins, I did a poll thinking maybe only the people with horrible experiences are answering. But polls tend to pull in people who just want to see the result. And so I said, has anyone in your family been on statins? And if so, what's your experience? And the choices were no one on statins, so they could see the result. No side effects, minor side effects, major side effects. 62% major side effects.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't doubt that. I mean, that's could be very possibly true. Sure. Right. I love these commercials. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll interrupt you.
Well, I'm just saying, do you ever see a commercial for some innocuous drug like, do you have social anxiety? Take this drug, and then the list of side effects is like, suicidal and homicidal thoughts. And I mean, you know more about this than I do, but I'm always cracking up and go, dude, it's not worth the risk reward here is not worth it.
Well, so here's what the drug does passively to caregivers like me is it gives them homicidal ideation.
Yeah. Well, I could see living with you. That's understandable.
Yeah.
Just
without any drugs. Ideation is me. Homicidal ideation is me.
Right.
Well, it's crazy too, really, because I think it's more well known now than it was maybe a few years ago. But we're one of 2 countries that allows pharma companies to advertise in that way on television. And this is, maybe this can dovetail into like the broader conversation of like where we are today. This is supposed to be one of the larger topics that this administration tackled with MAHA, like taking care of all this stuff, like getting to the root of the corruption in the medical industry. And what's your perception on how well they've done that up to this point?
Didn't Trump promise at some point to stop the commercials? I forget. Was that Robert Kennedy? I don't know. Anyway, one of these things they flip-flopped on, kind of like Glass. They're bringing Glass-Steagall back, and they're getting rid of the carried interest exemption and all that. I mean, it's bad. I don't know. I think it's us in New Zealand that allow on-air drug ads. And when I'm
who are, by the way, total Nazis during COVID.
My God! I made fun of that. What's her name? Ardern or whatever her name was.
Bucktooth. Yeah, Bucktooth.
Yeah, she was ridiculous. I mean, I keep playing this clip where she says, we continue to be your single source of truth, and if you don't hear from us, it is not the truth. And I'm just cracking
That's
up.
an amazing clip. It's an amazing clip. Yeah. And she also looks like she's now a cokehead.
Oh, she's we recognize the signs. Yeah.
She's twitching. She's like, who's the one in Canada? Chrystia Freeland. Bobbing away.
She's great.
Tweaking. Well, I was told by Canadian intelligence that it's well known that she's totally drugged out of her mind.
Right. And probably very compromised too, obviously.
They're all compromised.
It seems that way.
They're all compromised. So,
like Nick Bryant.
So the bottom line is that.
Yes. Well, Nick Bryant was making a comment about that senator that was caught in the bathroom, propositioning a cop. And he's like, how hard is it to entangle these guys or blackmail them? I mean, this guy is hitting on guys in public restrooms at airports, right? And he's a senator. So, and I always joke, how long do you think it would take to entrap Clinton or Trump? I mean, 5 minutes?
It's worse than that. And so one day I'm listening to a guy named Dave Janda, I think is his name, who was undersecretary of something or other in Bush administration. And I actually was on a Zoom call with a couple of generals, and one of them mentioned Janda, and I said, is he a good guy? And they said, oh, yeah, he's a really good guy. So Janda's being interviewed, and he says his first week inside the Beltway, he gets hauled off to the side by a grizzled veteran, says, whatever you do, don't go to a private party. And he says, what do you mean? He says, don't go to a private party. He says, why? And he goes, even if it's at the vice president's house, which, by the way, was Cheney at the time. Yeah. And the guy says, you will wake up with a Polaroid clipped to your lapel in a total fog with you and a 5-year-old.
Right. Like in Godfather 2.
They will drug you at the party. They will drug you at the party.
Yeah.
And,
it's not even just a political
said the same thing.
James O'Keefe.
Right.
Tim, Go ahead. Tim Burchett said the same thing.
But it's all throughout this federal bureaucracy. I mean, James O'Keefe had a video this week where he incriminated somebody at the Pentagon, saying they're going to roll back any changes that are made during this administration. And he was basically on a grinder date with James O'Keefe with a fake mustache on and baby powder in his hair. It's how many times does this guy need to get?
I thought he was missing. I thought he was AWOL. I didn't know he came back.
No, he did. But it's there's some weird psychology going on in that city, and I've had to spend more time in that city in the last 6 months than I did in the first 34 years of my life. And you can feel it in the air. I've been going to DC once a month.
Apparently, once you spend time talking to these guys, the sense of corruption is overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, that gets to the question, are we just in the unabashed looting of the Treasury stage? I mean, you look at what's going on. I mean, as it pertains to what we're doing in the Bitcoin world right now, the Clarity Act is obviously the big topic of discussion, and the main thing holding it up is this ethics clause about this revolves around Trump's ability to trade meme coins and crypto, and his family's being able to do it. And they came out with a stat earlier this year, Trump made $1.9 billion off of some of his crypto trades. It's more.
He doesn't take a salary, Marty. He doesn't take a salary. Okay, so give the guy a break.
It's more profit than Coinbase made last year, which is insane to think about.
How's Melania coin doing? Is that doing good?
That went straight to zero.
Where's Melania is a better question. Even where is she?
She's probably hanging with what's that guy's name? Powell.
Epstein.
Yeah, hooked her up with.
Where is Mitch McConnell? That is another question.
He's in a refrigerator.
He's like a GOP Feinstein. He's they're going to wheel, if he's still alive, they'll wheel him out and push a button to vote. It's ridiculous. They're all the same. Maxine Waters, Grassley is I don't know. He's 105 or something. There's a whole bunch of them that are in their 80s and 90s that have lost it. I was making McConnell jokes, 10 years ago. The guy was he would have moments of, and they've gotten much worse over the years, but he should not be driving a car. He should certainly not be a U.S. senator and voting on things, which, he's got someone pulling a string.
I mean, I think that's the point. He's obviously not voting on these things. He's just a puppet.
Well, you could get that Randy Fine. You see the video of Randy Fine voting for missing for congressmen that weren't there? There's a video of him, that Randy Fine scumbag from
walking along, voting along the.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
In Congress. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I really like Randy Fine and all his political views too.
Well, there's no. I mean, Porter Collins said it good the other day. Is there's no adults anywhere. They're not in the government. There's no. I mean, there's no adults in There's no regulation. I mean, Trump actually actively, embraces corruption, and he's pardoned over 70 people convicted just of fraud. I mean, look what he's doing now. Like Marty said, looting of the Treasury. I mean, I don't know. There's no cops on the beat that I can see. Congress is completely owned by other country, and the Supreme Court, I guess, gets things like 5 years later. But with mixed results there. But
way too late.
Congress is. There's no brakes on this administration. We gave the executive way too much power under Bush and Cheney, and it's just metastasized over the years. And everything that Trump does is going to be done by some president in the future that you really hate. Even if you love Trump, you're going to have like Mondami elected, and he's going to do the exact everything Trump did, only worse. So be careful what you wish for. We have a founder set up a good system.
Mondami's not even looking that bad on the scale of 1 to 10.
Well, he's not the one that's blowing up schools in Iran. He's not the one that's destroying the middle class. He's not the one that's has this, that allows this massive inflation without doing anything about it. So I'm not, is Mamdani, do I love his olive ideas? No, but he's not my enemy. He's not my main enemy. My main enemy is the people that have been running this country the last life. Anyway.
Clinton had 1,115 pardons, and I actually at one point they were easy to find. It was top search link on Google. Now they're kind of buried, but you can find them. They're there, and they were all drugs and bank fraud. They were all.
He ran a drug empire in Arkansas. Yeah. So okay, I can understand that. But I mean, now it's like, Trump Biden's pardons were unconscionable. Just at the end, and blanket pardons, and you get pardoned from 2014 on, and all that bullshit.
I don't even think those are legal, but no one cares about the law.
No one cares. There's no adult.
Right.
There's no cops on the beat. And then now Trump is just making a farce of the whole thing. He's blatantly selling, to major criminals. As
you know, I had hope for him. And as I've said so many times, it's not that I had great hope. He seemed like our last hope, and now our last hope is gone.
Yeah, he's done the opposite of everything he promised, and it's pathetic. And then Joe Kent, I saw an interview the other day talking about how something flipped in June of 2025, from his point of view. He said Trump was never interested in war, but he didn't want it. And something happened. I assume something happened is, Netanyahu showed him a video or something. So it's bad. It's bad. It obviously corrupted. Obviously, look at the vote, to merge our military procurement and other intelligence with Israel. And there's like 4 Republicans vote against it. 4 Republicans. Now, I hate both parties. I hope people know by now. But my God, I'm never going to vote Republican again. I'm going to write in Tom Massey like I used to write in Ron Paul. And I tell people, hey, if you're liberal, write in Ro Khanna. Do I agree with him on everything?
I had dinner with Ron Paul once.
Oh, good.
They sat me next to him because it turns out he's a pretty shy guy. And
Ron Paul.
Yeah,
you sat next to him.
He's pretty.
Yeah, he's a great. Yeah. He's a hero. He's one guy that I respect in government in the last.
Total hero. I was an endorser on his homepage of his 2008 campaign. The homepage, my name was there endorsing him.
Yeah, I voted for him many times.
And then I'm at dinner, and I said, I apologize to him. I said, I have to do this, and I hand my camera across the table to the lady. I said, could you take a photo? And I watched her blow it. She hands the camera back, and she took a picture of Ron Paul. And I said, I can get these off the internet. I was kind of hoping to be in it. She goes, oh, right. So in any case,
he's a genuinely nice,
honest the whole way. Mm-hmm. He's authentic. Massey has done some things that don't quite make sense to me. So I haven't in any way, shape, or form given up. But he seems to have had information that he didn't release.
Yeah, I hear you. You don't know who to trust 100% nowadays.
And so he's the one I trust the most. But I like Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson, I think, is very good.
Yeah, I'm less familiar with Ron Johnson, but I hear you. You can't. I mean, I had hope for Tulsi Gabbard, and then it didn't really work out. I had hope for Robert Kennedy Jr. or Robert F. Kennedy, and that didn't work out really. It's like everybody. Look at Joe Hexton.
Do you think Kennedy failed because he couldn't beat them, or do you think it was never going to be?
Well, he's kind of been swamp adjacent for his whole life, so who knows what, maybe he got compromised too. I mean, he's got a lot to be compromised about. So,
I know.
I don't know. I mean, are they threatening you? Maybe they just say, maybe they don't even have to have any blackmail on you. They just say, you know what, we're going to kill you.
Marty, you're getting a lot of wind. Marty, I think you're getting a lot of wind.
I think that's Rudy. Rudy, are you walking?
Oh, no, I'm on the roof. I'm going to go back inside. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dave.
And if my
while you're throwing noise arrows, your dog's snoring again.
Here's the funny thing: whenever I listen to the podcast, which people say my dog's snoring, I can't hear it in the recorded podcast. So what I try to do is keep them awake by scratching them so that they don't go into REM sleep. But my wife's in the other room, and I can't let the dogs in because she can't take the beating of the dogs. Shut up, go. So I don't have a lot of choice on this one.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, much better.
I think we're getting it. You say there's no hope. Is there?
Go ahead.
There's no hope at all. Is there a new hope? Let's bring a cheesy Star Wars reference into this. Like, what is the option?
Another. Princess Leia would give me hope.
Because the other thing too is like the contradiction, like the Saudi nuclear deal, like right while we're bombing Iran for enrichment. It's like, what's going on there? Like, shouldn't we?
I think there is hope.
Have anybody building more nukes?
Yeah, I'll be hopeful. It's we felt, I've talked about this before. Back in the 70s, we were in the 60s and 70s. We were very divided over the Vietnam War, and then we had the debacle, and we had the inflation. We had 75 Vietnam. It was an embarrassing loss, kind of like Afghanistan. And people were down, high inflation. We actually had recessions back then. They allowed recessions back then. And then the Carter just wasn't, I think he's the best ex-president, but he wasn't really a guy that inspired confidence. And everybody was kind of feeling like today, like, what is all, I mean, no, actually not. This is much worse now. But I'm saying there was a lot of despair back then, like, well, it can't get any better. Remember Carter does this famous malaise speech, which I remember, like, I think in 1980. And then you had the whole Iran hostage thing in 79, and that was very demoralizing. Like, oh, here we're getting our ass kicked by these mullahs. And actually, it was a widespread protest, and then the mullahs took over after they got rid of the Shah, and because, they're pretty brutal. They were more brutal than the students. But it was a bad time. And then we had and people, by the way, people say, oh, we've had this war with Iran for 47 years, ever since 1979. Well, you know what? There's a reason that Iran's kind of ticked off at us, because in 1953, we overthrew the democratically elected president, and we installed a dictator, and he was a brutal dictator, and they're kind of ticked off about that. So the Americans have no such a history. 72% of Americans in a poll, 5 years ago, didn't know where Iran was, couldn't find it on a map or even get close. So then we have this rescue mission in 79. I don't know if you remember, Desert Eagle or something, and we tried to rescue the hostages, and it ended in a helicopter crash and people dying, and we ran out with our tail between our legs. So I would put that as our bottom of that era. And then here comes Ron Reagan. Now, I'm not going to defend a lot of the problems we have today probably started under Reagan, and he had some bad people around him. But he come on, and he was inclusive. He was not divisive. He was self-deprecating. He had a sense of humor. He didn't call the Democrats, democrats and call them communists and say they should all be, go to jail and all that, like Trump. He was, even he'd go have, a beer with Tip O'Neill. And I think he won he won the election in 80 and 84. I think in 84 he even had won a huge landslide, because I think largely because you got people feeling like, hey, we're things are tough, but we're all in this together. But now I think they say, yeah, things are tough, but Trump and his buddies only care about one thing. there, Trump and his buddies. I mean, he doesn't care about America at all, clearly. And neither does Letnick or any other Epstein class that he has in his administration. So that, I think, was what makes it worse today. And we need a leader who doesn't demonize people who don't agree with him. And we also need a return to accountability. There is no accountability for anything at any level. Who's accountable for the Fed's policy of actively seeking higher inflation 5 years ago? Who's responsible for Afghanistan? Who's responsible for Iraq? Who's been fired? You know, I think I read today they fired some lieutenant colonel or something who said that, you know, we were doing Israel's interests in Iran. They fired him. That's who gets fired, not the generals that have failed for my entire life, not the generals that failed in Vietnam and Iraq and Libya, Afghanistan, not the politicians. And, you know, and we got to get rid of the Deaver Storm BS because, you know, Trump tweets these things like, oh, you know, Hillary Clinton's going down and Barack Obama the most corrupt, and they were treasonous. I'm like, okay, dude, you calling people treason? That's a serious charge. Where's the evidence? I mean, I've been hearing for 35 years that the Clintons were about to go to jail. It's all kebab. You know what I mean? The wrestling. Anyway, I'll let you guys pine in, but don't get me started on this. There's no accountability, and we need accountability again. And we need to end too big to fail, and we need to end too big to jail.
Yeah. I mean, and it seems like at least out of the gate, they tried to produce some form of accountability with DOGE in the auditing. Obviously, USAID and other things have been cut, but they basically stopped dead in their tracks. And then, obviously, over the last year, we've had Nick Shirley and I think many others on the trail of this Medicare fraud that seems to be pretty rampant throughout the country. And as a taxpayer, it's like, well, why am I contributing to this? It's just a blatant waste of money that in many cases is being used to actively against my interests as an individual American citizen.
You trust Shirley to be legit or a limited hangout?
I mean, I don't think it really matters because, like, if Shirley, I have a good friend in Maine, Steve Robinson. He writes for the Maine Wire, and he's like a really good investigative journalist. And I trust him. I worked with him at Barstool Sports. I've known him for years, and independently in Maine, he was doing investigations for years before Shirley even came out, and was uncovering the same Medicare scheme in Maine alone. So whether Shirley is some limited hangout to draw attention away from something or towards something that may not be as important as other things, maybe, but like I think still that problem exists. It is wrong. As a taxpayer, I don't like it. What are your thoughts on Shirley? You think he's a limited hangout?
I'm suspicious. He went from 0 to 60 so fast that I'm suspicious. He's like Harry Kissinger, Republican style or something, you know? I don't trust anyone. Actually, I asked Rudy in a DM one day about, and I don't need you to tell us what your answer was, but I asked him about, you know, do you trust Kiriakou, for example? And I would love to trust Kiriakou. I would love to trust Kiriakou. I just have this little voice in my head that says, you can't. And I like his stories and stuff like that. They seem little times a little old, a little overstated or something. But Bustamante, guys like that, I don't trust him as far as I can chuck him. And it gets back to, you know, was Tulsi good? I've been a Tulsi fan since well before she got near the national scene for 15 years, maybe. But then, I don't know if you saw this, but she appears to have been in a cult.
I did not see that.
I don't know whether that's completely. Yep. Oh, you haven't seen that? No. Suppose there's like 25,000 documents that basically trace her public statements directly from a guy who's running this cult. And I don't know what to make of that. Rudy, did you see that?
I'm familiar with that. I think what I do often, like, I quoted Elizabeth Warren. Do I believe? You know what? I agree with what I quote. You know, I can't. I mean, if she comes out and says that, you know, corruption is bad, I'm gonna agree with that. Now, is she lying? You know what I mean? It's like I can't I can't vet everything anyone's ever done if I agree with something they're doing right now. And like I quoted Elizabeth Warren the other day, who I know you and I think she's a big phony. But what I quoted was from her 2009 FCIC testimony, which I think was very good. It's before she got corrupted. And yet I get all people, every time I do something like that, I could quote anybody. I could quote left or right. I get people saying, well, that guy did this. And I'm like, you know what? I endorse what I quote. So I say that a lot. I have no problem. Look at Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich or Tom Massey and Ro Khanna working together on things. Do they agree on everything? Hell no. But on the Venn diagram where they intersect, let's work together. And I have people on the far left that follow me and people on the far right. And they're the minority of people who are able to, I'm sure half my tweets tick them off, and yet they're just say, that's just, okay, I disagree with Rudy on that, but I agree with on this other thing. And so I think we should be more like that. Now you got a litmus test. If you disagree with me on one issue, then you're dead to me, so I just think we should try to find common ground, a very, very necessary thing today, left and right.
I completely agree. And I mean, Dave, to your comments, like you can't trust anybody. I think that's the right way to approach everything. And I think getting to like how you fix the system, one of the big sort of phrases of Bitcoin is don't trust, verify. It's like, how can we get the system to a point where you don't need to trust these politicians as much? You can just verify like that they're actually doing the right thing. And that would preclude like making the federal government much smaller, making these things much more auditable. And
well, that's what Reagan said about the Russians: trust but verify. That was one of his favorite sayings. So, yeah.
And it's like I wrote a newsletter about this earlier this week, particularly in the context of like the rise of socialist leanings from Gen Z, and it makes sense why they're leaning socialist, because they've been taught that the system that they grow up in, like they've been taught that it's a capitalist system, and there's many capitalistic aspects of our system. Like it's easy to start a business, to take risk, and to.
Where'd Rudy go?
He'll be back. He dropped earlier too, but like the point.
He was digitizing a little. Were you hearing the digitizing?
Yes, but that won't come through in post. That'll record locally. It'll come through clear.
Yeah, I was wondering if my house has got a very complex wiring diagram, and so if I walk through my house, I will go in and out of reach very quickly. Yeah. I'm like a highly variable Faraday cage in this house, because there's so many lights and circuits and stuff. The guy who designed it, it's great, but it makes it impossible to walk and have a conversation on the phone, for example.
But the point being, like this, you mentioned Mamdani, like he's not your enemy, but like I think long term, the principles he stands on, like democratic socialists, like are an enemy that would make this worse off. And the point I was making is like Gen Z is like,
but I don't think he'll have the power to do it.
Well, he obviously can't run for president unless they change something.
No. But I think even in his current position, I think there are people telling him what to do.
Oh, that's very obvious. Like he's some theater kid.
So I don't. When Trump was running in 2016, and it looked like it might be Trump versus Bernie, my brother and I talked excessively about whether we would vote for Trump or for Bernie, because Bernie's somewhat predictable, and Trump was unpredictable, and we talked about how the system would keep him in check, and he was out there spewing shit about not supporting Israel the other day, unless it's AI, right? That's the other problem we face.
Well, I mean, do you think he's a bit pissed off? Do you think he's a bit pissed off about how things in Iran are going, or do you think he expected it?
How could you not be, right? There's so many things, and I tell you, there's a Rorschach test for me going on right now, and I paid very close attention. And one could argue it's irrelevant, but because I view it as a Rorschach test, I'm paying very close attention, and that's the Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson story. Because you can see people picking sides in ways that you go, I did not see that coming. And And I keep seeing this, like Megyn Kelly, for example. I thought she was trying to get it right, and then all of a sudden she's out there giving the overwhelming evidence speech, which is just not right. There's someone wants to debate me, and I said I don't think so, because he said, because it's our understanding that you think everything Candace Owens says is correct. I go, no, I don't think everything Candace Owens is correct. No one thinks that. But we think she, some of us think she's at least digging. And then all of a sudden, someone like Robbie Starbuck, who I think he's done some really good journalistic work, all of a sudden comes out and does this total hit piece on Candace. And if he did it with facts, it would be one thing, but it was done with all the usual tricks to undermine a person by showing clips of her acting goofy and things like that. And I go, that's dishonest to me. And then there's Megyn Kelly all of a sudden doing the overwhelming evidence. I'll tell you what's overwhelming is that I don't think you can convict Tyler Robinson based on what I've seen. Based on what I've seen, I don't think you can convict him in a standard court of law.
Sup, freaks? Woo! This rip was brought to you by our good friends at the motherfucking Cash App. More specifically, Cash App Bitcoin. You freaks already know. Cash App makes it easy to stack sats, send sats, receive sats. And since they were last to sponsor the show, they've added more features. You can set auto buys. You can get your paychecks direct deposited into the app. You have the roundups, which have existed for a while. If you're trying to get a friend or a family member started, Cash App is one of the least intimidating front doors. Download the app, turn on Bitcoin, buy a little, send a little, and start learning by doing. New Cash App customers can earn $21 if they use code TFTC10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Hashtag block partner. Get started at cash.app/app/TFTC10. Freaks, look at me. I'm glowing. I've got like an angel's halo going around me. You know why that is I feel good. I feel taken care of. I feel blessed, healthy, happy. And that is because I'm a CrowdHealth member. My family and I have been CrowdHealth members for 5 years now. Literally this month, 5 years ago, we joined CrowdHealth. We've had 2 babies. We've had multiple health events, and we're never going back to health insurance. CrowdHealth is crowdfunded healthcare. So you sign up for CrowdHealth, you pay a monthly fee, you help out with other people's bills, and it's significantly cheaper than health insurance. We were on Cobra as a family of 3 when I left my last job before I went full time to TFTC. Went on the CrowdHealth. Now as a family of 5, we pay I believe $700 a month. It's significantly cheaper. They're going to negotiate prices lower for you. They've consistently negotiated healthcare prices as much as 50, 60, 80% in many cases. They help out with babies. If you have a pregnancy, you pay the first $3,000 and the crowd covers the rest. If you have a regular health event, you pay $500 and the crowd pays the rest. Go to joincrowdhealth.com, sign up today, use the code TFTC, opt out of health insurance. I'm uninsured, baby, and I love it. Use the code TFTC at joincrowdhealth.com, and you'll get $99 a month for the first 3 months that you're on the CrowdHealth platform in the community. Bitcoiners, you found sovereign money. Now find sovereign health and sovereign healthcare.
Me personally, my journey over the last year is like, I've just become so disenfranchised and dejected by the state of politics in America, geopolitics. Like for like the last 6 months, I don't want to say I'm distracted, but I've just been focused on like learning about AI and all of that, and like not leaning away, but just like, hey, I've spent years down this rabbit hole. Nothing ever seems to happen. But like, what's going on with Tyler Robinson? What are they?
What's going on is that there's not a single shred of evidence he did anything. I think that you could possibly make the argument that he is somehow involved. But to the extent there's hard evidence, the hard evidence is that there's a lot of liars. The hard evidence is there's a lot of liars, and they're lying for a reason, and you don't know why. But you could throw me any piece of information people claim is true about Tyler Robinson. I can tell you it's bullshit, because it's this massive campaign to get this guy convicted and put away before we find out that Israel whacked him or something like that. I don't know who did it, but
yeah, what are the lies they're telling? Because it's all weird. Like the fact that they like bulldozed the stage and like concreted over it within days.
Yeah, they had to get rid of the evidence. If there was a local explosion, like Candace says, Candace's exploding mic theory is about 80% meritorious and 20% I don't understand it. But they dug up the dirt, and here's the key: if you listen to her,
well, they dug up the dirt. What's the deal with that? Why would they possibly? Right, Dave, you know more about this than I do.
So what you have to do, and this is the painful part, you have to watch her 1 hour presentations. And if she said Frank Turek is lying, she shows Frank Turek a clip of him saying something, and then Frank Turek a clip of him saying the opposite, right? She doesn't just say he's a liar, she shows he's a liar. And if you watch just clips of Candace, you're not getting a straight story. You unfortunately have to put in the hard work to see it. And she corrects herself all the time. And like I like to say, if Seymour Hersh did one of his big exposés.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
But presented what he understood on a daily basis, you'd get a very different result. Okay. Because the people he's going after would start playing defense, they'd start evading, they'd start throwing out bullshit, right? Seymour Hersh would not be able to do what he did if he tipped his hand every single day as to what he was up to. And so I've watched a ton of Candace Ryan and Baron Coleman, who, by the way, I don't trust Baron Coleman. He showed up on Twitter exactly the month that Charlie got shot. Seems too coincidental to me. Now, I think he's saying the right stuff. But he arrived at exactly. Maybe that's what drew him to Twitter. I don't know. But the videos of him limping along, and you watch him carefully, and he doesn't have a gun down his pant leg. There's not a snowball's chance in hell he has a gun down his pant leg. For one thing, because once in a while he forgets and he bends that leg, and then there's not a single clear picture of his face, his license plate, anything. There's nothing. And then during the testimony, and people are saying, why did the defense do A, B, C, and D? And I go, because it's a preliminary hearing, you retard. The defense doesn't. The defense has no reason to tip their hand on anything. But what they had to do is they had to counter some of the stuff because the prosecutor's trying to win the case before it starts. Now, so they're interviewing some guy, and he says, and she says to him, she says, you reported that a woman had a security camera and she saw Tyler Robinson's car at 12:45 a.m. right? And he says yes, and she said, did you mention in your testimony that he was bald? And he says, no, I didn't. And then she says, and in this reported sighting of Tyler Robinson's car, did you mention that the woman also said there were 3 other people in the car? And he says, no, I didn't. This is a cop on the stand. Right. So, and then they interview Lance Twiggs, who, by the way, is a potential primary suspect. He could be the shooter. They literally talked to him the day after the shooting and this April. And that's it. And then they do a videotape, and we see about a 1.5-minute clip, and they get nothing. They got nothing out of that 1.5-minute clip. I mean, and he'd answer the question like, well, does that look like Tyler Robinson to you in those photos? He goes, well, I can't say for sure, but he dresses like him. I go, what the fuck is that, right? And then he later on starts sort of trying to solidify it up. And then, so I found the 20-minute clip where it was something like 20 out of 23 minutes total. And they got even less than the 20-minute clip. So here there's a critical witness. And the guy's supposed to be a furry. And you look at him and you go, he's not a fucking furry. He doesn't have any affectations you expect for a furry. He's been working construction for the last 8 months. This guy's not a furry. And he shockingly looks similar to Tyler Robinson. You go, yeah, cut his hair right. It'd be the same guy if you put a little fur. You can't even see the light. These are security cameras in the parking garages, right? If you have a security camera in the parking garage, what do you need to see above all else? The fucking license plate. You can't see the license plates. Candace Owens pointed out that by the way, in these Dodge Chargers of the era, it's a kind of a weird car, there's double barrel exhaust and single, and the car, they keep showing us a single barrel exhaust, and then the car that got towed was double barrel exhaust, things like that. There's literally no fact that holds up in this case, that holds up to scrutiny. None. And the screwdriver, the screwdriver found on the roof. There were 4 guys on the roof between the time he supposedly shot him and when the cop who got on the roof, who looked at the crime scene supposedly for the first time, and he doesn't even mention the screwdriver. And the screwdriver, by the way, isn't even the right screwdriver to take apart one of these Mausers. And these Mausers are big, heavy mother guns. So he supposedly took it apart, put it back together, took it apart again, changed his clothes several times.
Left it in the woods. It's like, what?
And just left it in the woods with the screwdriver. And they said, we found the screwdriver with the gun for like 3 days. And then all of a sudden they said, holy shit, we got no evidence of him on the roof. So all of a sudden the screwdriver miraculously finds its way to the roof. This is all official record. You can see people testifying this. It's just crazy. It's just a completely. So it's going to be like I had a chance to chat with Jonathan Turley this year, which was, I'm like his total groupie, and I asked him. I asked him. I said, I got one question. I'm dying to ask because you paid very close attention to the George Floyd death, and I said, did Derek Chauvin get a fair trial? And he hemmed and hawed. You could see him going, holy fuck, I didn't see that question coming. And then he said, I have real problems with that trial. And I think we're going to do it again.
Well, I can't follow everything. I pick and choose my rabbit holes. But
no, you can't.
You can't. But one thing I did find amusing, and I never followed Charlie Kirk. I really had very light familiarity. And I did find it amusing that immediately after he was...
Yeah, I thought he was just a grifter.
Charlie, yeah, I think I got that impression. I saw a few tweets and like where he was defending Trump, and when obviously I thought Trump did something in the past. But I did find it interesting that Benjamin Netanyahu felt the need to go on and give a lengthy protest that we didn't kill him. We didn't kill him. I mean, you and I didn't feel a need to get on TV and say, hey, we didn't kill Charlie Kirk. It's like that was very, very, he doth protest too much. So I found that amusing, and they have some experience with exploding devices, I think, over from reading the news.
I'm told.
Yeah.
I'm told. But you know what Netanyahu's doing this week? You know what he's doing this week?
Doing?
He is going to Lindsey Graham's funeral.
Where's a meteor when you need one?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, well, good.
I mean, that was like...
I made
Dave, I thought I think we might have talked about this, but the whole like golden beeper that he gave to Trump, I thought that was a very weird move.
Very strange.
Is that a veiled threat or like, I don't know what the hell that was.
So I have a working hypothesis of Trump that's generous, but it's not super generous. And that is, I think it's possible he did think he could change the system. And I think it's possible that it was driven by his narcissism where he said, look, I want to be the greatest, right? Muhammad Ali on steroids, right? And that the way to do that is to do great things, right? You don't get to Mount Rushmore by being a douchebag. And that something caused him to say, fuck it.
Could be greed. He's made $2 billion last year. All he's 80. Can you imagine?
No, he's done well after he said, yeah.
Can you imagine being 80 and being anti-war your whole life, and then you have the power to actually change things, and all you do is enrich yourself and your friends and your family and start new wars that you promised for the decade not to start. I mean, he's 80 years old.
See, that's part of my fucking theory. That's part of my fucking theory is that he said, look, there's nothing I can achieve here. And therefore, I'm just going to do what I do best, and that is grift.
Well, what about the war? He clearly doesn't do. He clearly doesn't do war really as well as he does grift.
Well, I think since it totally destroyed his presidency, and he had to know it. He had to know it. He had to have advisors saying, "This is going to be an epic disaster." I think something
And he,
made him do it.
I kind of take
even Trump the grifter wouldn't have done
I kind
that.
of take the opposite tack. I think he was so high on Venezuela that I bet I'm sure he had people telling him this is going to be a disaster. But he also had people telling him, it's a cakewalk. I mean, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I got a tweet I commented on where he says it wouldn't be difficult. Wouldn't be difficult. They thought that this is how ignorant. Now, clearly people were arguing against it. I mean, I have people like Except and Tulsi were going nuts, but he does, Trump likes people that stroke him. I mean, he's got Letnick is like his Siamese twin. He never goes anywhere without Letnick. And of course, Letnick, his man, she literally touched Epstein.
Well, Letnick's been AWOL since the Epstein papers.
I don't know.
Letnick's been AWOL.
I thought I saw him the other day
papers.
standing next to Trump. I don't know. Maybe it was a clip, but.
Well, but it was a very awkward moment. It was one of those things where he was trash talking Israel with Letnick standing next to him.
I missed that.
That was a strange. I'm sitting there. I'm almost feeling sympathetic to Letnick at that point. I'm going, have to stand next to Trump while he's hammering Israel. That's got to be sort of Letnick's low point of his life.
Israel. Okay, I'll believe it.
He was.
They didn't want to join the war, right? They said they're not going to get.
You know what?
They're not going to progress.
It's all on Trump. He's a big boy. It's his responsibility. I'm sure Israel told him it was.
It's all on
Israel
Trump.
told him it's going to be a cakewalk, and now I said the chutzpah of these guys, the chutzpah. They say, oh, we don't want to be involved in the Iran war. We'll let the Americans fight it. We are so stupid. I said today we were lying.
We don't know though. We don't know though if we don't know if it was. Risk of death and dismemberment of family members. We don't know that, and if you think that's beyond Israel, you're.
Well, I would think Trump has access to people who can dismember Netanyahu's family. I mean, seriously. I mean, nobody has more power in the world than Trump. Or whoever controls.
I think the Israelis are the best.
I think not. Look what they're butchered. They're good at people that don't fight back. So they're good at blowing up hospitals and of course, we're doing the same thing. We're blowing up hospitals, we're blowing up schools, we're blowing up bridges. I mean, these used to be called war crimes. Like I said.
Yeah, we've killed many more than they have. We've killed many more than they have.
On the
many more.
Anywhere.
Not to the point of the shit show. Now it's like Yemen is starting to bomb Saudi ships on the other side.
Bombing those poor people in
the
Yemen.
Red Sea. And it's just like.
And the Saudis are going for the bomb now. The Saudis are going for the bomb now.
That's what I was saying there earlier. It's like that's like the weird contradiction. It's like we're in this war with Iran to stop them from nuclear enrichment. Like we're signing a deal with Saudi. Like, yeah, go make a bomb. It's like, what? How did we get to this point?
I don't know. It would be hard to make the case for better off than we were 6 months ago. And then, of course, here we are. Everyone's pissed off at everyone, except for the three of us. We're not pissed off at each other. And we're what has to be something approximating a market top and an economic top, right? I don't even think it's I think we're already on the skids badly economically, but they're hiding it. What happens if we get a 75% correction in the S&P? What the hell is society going to be doing then?
They're not going to allow it. Like that'll never happen. I don't think
they don't have the control over it, Marty.
You don't think so?
No chance.
Well,
there's never been an asset class in history that got overvalued that didn't find its way back to cheap. No. Never. Rudy, chime in here, buddy.
Well, I was going to say, Rudy, chime in because I know you liked my interview with Nick Namus, and we were talking about private credit, insurance companies, and the systemic risk that may exist there. Like, what is going to be the catalyst? Because we've been talking about this for years, and like, Is
he there?
You sound like you're in a fishbowl, Rudy. Are you using your phone? What are you using?
We're not getting you at all.
Yeah, you're muffled. I don't know if your mic's...
like you sat on your phone.
You boomers. Yeah.
He's going and coming back.
Yeah.
I'm Boomer Tech. I was on with Chris Martinson the other day, and he couldn't get his technology to work after a Microsoft upgrade. And then he went on Tucker, which was interesting. went on Tucker.
I had Chris on a couple months ago. It was the first time I've had him on. It was a good conversation. I think you may have brokered that intro. Or I used you as a reference. I said, Dave thinks
What's that?
I used you as a reference to get Chris on the show. I said, I've had Dave Collum on. He's
I saw you guys spent the first 2 minutes talking about me.
Yeah.
In your podcast, right?
Yeah.
I'll take any press, good press, bad press, and I've had my share of both. But I do wonder what is going to happen. We'll get Rudy to chime in here, but there's forces of nature out there that are more powerful than central banks, and one of them is that real live economic downturns are not stoppable. Real live market corrections from profound overvaluation are not stoppable. They can be delayed, they can be stalled, they can be made more overvalued, but they're ultimately not stoppable.
Yeah.
And it's like the death of currencies, right? They're not stoppable either.
Yeah. What's the frothiest part of the market in your mind right now?
You'd have to say AI, I think, but I think AI is actually the trigger. I put out a tweet about a month ago or so that I said I never call market tops and crashes, but if I were to call a market top and a crash, it would be the IPO of SpaceX. And because on the one hand, it is the peak absurdity in the market. It's like SpaceX was a $1.5 trillion NFT, best I could tell. But more to the point, sentiment doesn't. I've actually thought that we would not get euphoric. We seem to have gotten euphoric for some reason, but I do believe that these really, really super high priced IPOs. Rudy, you there just for laughs? Got to ask. You're still in it. You're still in a fishbowl. Nothing's coming through. I came back, but it's kind of like your head and phone were both up your butt.
Yeah. So what SpaceX NFT?
So SpaceX and these other really pricey IPOs that run into the multiple $1 trillion are going to suck the liquidity right out of the system. I think they're going to be like throwing, sponge in there. It's just so if you want to put out debt, you're a bank. You could put out 1,000 $10 million loans or one $10 billion loan. What are you going to do?
The one
right.
loan.
So and they tried to come up. You can see them scrambling to find ways to dump the shares, right? So trying to put it in the index right away. And I think the Triple Q picked up on it. I think the maybe the Russell, but the S&P did not. The NASDAQ picked up on it and put them in the NASDAQ and things like that. But the S&P has various rules, one of which is you have to have 2 quarters in a row of profitability. SpaceX is not going to have 2 quarters of profitability legitimately for many, many years. And so the S&P actually held the ground. Now, the other noticeable thing is they staged the lockout, which at first I said, oh, now they're really grifting. But I realized that it would be better to stage it the way they did, which it's over the next 6 months. The shares are going to lock out percentage-wise. I actually saw a ramp. I saw the precise lockout thing. Someone drew it out graphically. You wouldn't want to release over $1 trillion worth of shares on one day, right? That you wouldn't want to do. So I think that's why SpaceX is rotting very quickly in the market. I think people are trying to get out as fast as they can. And someone said, what price would you buy it at? 30? And I said, well, 30 would put it at 10 times sales. 10 times sales is Scott McNeely, what were they thinking level of valuation. So one could argue that if you do it based on sales, one could argue that $3 a share would be the right price.
Yeah, it's down 30% from its list. That's the question. I mean, you have like Gavin Baker and others saying, look at the Anthropic compute leasing deal. Like that's going to pay back Colossus 1 within like a year, and then it's pure profit from there. And they're making the case that they can build a gigawatt facility with Colossus 2 and lease out at comparable economics than that.
So the guy, you might be pretty good at this story because of your understanding of the relationship of energy and Bitcoin and things like that. But the guy who makes the most sense to me is Ed Zitron.
No, he's like the Peter Schiff of AI.
Is that correct? Because he seems to, are his numbers wrong?
I think so. Yeah. It's just making false claims. It's like it's been reported behind the scene. Obviously, they're still a private company, but the rumors are like there's credible people on Anthropic's cap table that are saying they've hit cash flow positive in many of their business lines. The CEO, I believe, of Iron came out after.
But I think they're recording fictional revenues and stuff.
I don't know. I use this stuff every day.
I think
paying
the circle jerk of, vendor financing stuff looks profound.
So I don't have like full clarity on like where the money's coming in, where the circle jerk is corrupting things. What I know is I'm using the tech, and I also sit on the board of a company that's a Bitcoin miner, and we are exploring doing some hosting for AI compute specifically. And
I don't doubt that AI is going to be really important.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to get at here is like
I don't doubt that a bit.
It's going to be really important. That's what I'm trying to discern. It's like, okay, where, like, it's obvious that this technology is
the best analogy I heard was Jeff Gundlach, who said that at the turn of the century, obviously electricity companies were rocking because electricity had been invented and it's starting to be shipped around the world. And he said, of course they'd rock. It'd be like the railroads, right? He said they peaked in 1911. So the people who somehow think that the revenue's like, oh my, how can you not own electricity? It's like the guys who bought the Nikkei in 1989. 14 of the 20 biggest companies in the world were in the Nikkei. How do you not own the Nikkei? You have to own the Nikkei under those conditions, right? Cisco in 1999 had a 30% growth in revenues.
Yeah.
And so none of this stuff has anything to do with investing is the problem.
Yeah. No, I think that's clear. Like I would not be shocked if like Anthropic and OpenAI turn out to be companies that end up in the dustbin of history.
Well, no, I think what they'll do is that whatever they've created will be bought up for pennies on the dollar. And I mean pennies. And then the money will start. So the big winner of the internet were not the front end of the internet. It was not Yahoo or Netscape or whatever. It was Google. It was Amazon. It was the guys who came along and used it. And even Amazon, right? Amazon supposedly in the dot-com bust corrected 95%. Now, if you'd owned it and held on to it, you'd still be okay, but you would have gone through years of sleepless nights, years and years and years. And I wonder what's going on with Rudy. So there's things like a story I like to tell. Buffett, after the dot-com bust, Buffett ever so briefly lamented owning Coca-Cola. Now that's like the Pope lamenting reading the Bible, right? That's really extraordinary. And I only heard him say it once, but he lamented owning Coca-Cola. And so you say, well, why would he say that? And they go, well, it turns out that in 1998, I think it was, Coca-Cola was trading at 50 times earnings. Now, Coca-Cola was not a growth company. Coca-Cola as someone said, I think Eddie DOGE said he was in Nepal and there were Coke machines in Nepal. You know, I mean, Coca-Cola controlled the entire global beverage industry, and they were trading at 50 times earnings when treasuries were returning 6.5%, 7%. There was not so you say, well, there's no way Coke was going to double its earnings. No way. But let's say they did. Then they'd be trading at 25 times earnings, right? There was no way owning. And so Buffett noticed, in retrospect, he said, I should have sold. And that's where you get to. You get to the point where even guys like Buffett are not able to see with the clarity. Now, a guy who sees things like this with the clarity is Jeremy Grantham. If you look at his returns, they stink. If you look at his returns over the last 40 years or so, he called all the bubbles. He called them early. I give him credit for calling them early. But his returns suck. But I sincerely believe that this is the biggest mother of them all, because you've got the AI bubble perched on top of private equity and private credit and real estate and standard equities. I mean, these are bubbles on top. This is turtles all the way down. And so this bubble is humongous. Someone came up with an estimate. I don't know how you estimate this, so I'm inclined to believe it's just a story. So I will warn the listener. But they said if you look at the malinvestment of the dot-com bubble, the malinvestment, what's the metric for malinvestment? I don't know. The claim is, this is something George Noble, I think, brought up, who was Peter Lynch's right-hand man and has been very active lately. I did a Twitter Spaces with him once. He runs Twitter Spaces with an iron fist. And he said the malinvestment of the AI bubble is 17 times the malinvestment of the dot-com bubble.
What's he pointing out specifically? Where's the money being?
No, that's the problem. It's a vague statement. It's a vague statement. It's misallocated resources, but I don't know what metric they use. So it's probably some guy in Wall Street. So his lips are moving. He's probably lying, right? You know?
Well, that's what I worry about with like the those analysts like that who are like putting bear cases out there. It's like, have you used this technology like outside of just asking ChatGPT a question in the chat app? And
yeah, to me, ChatGPT, these Grok and ChatGPT, most of us are using it as the next gen. By the way, did you see that Google, for the first time in its history, has a negative cash flow?
Yeah, but that makes sense. They're investing so much in the infrastructure layer, right? On the
right, but they're putting it all on the line.
I know, but
how many of these multi-trillion-dollar companies are putting it all on the line?
Well, the revenue was up what, 24%? Same earnings report.
Just like right? Cisco, you mean, like in '99?
Yeah, maybe. But that's like where we have this weird. I think we have to take a nuanced approach here. Where it's like Google. I had a conversation with Mel Madison last week, and he made a really good point. Like all these hyperscalers, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, like they are taking risk right now. Obviously, they've exacerbated their cash flow. Now they're going into debt or issuing equity. But on the debt side, Mel made the point, like AI could blow up tomorrow, go to zero, like proved that, like could have proven that like none of this works. It doesn't make sense. And all their investments could go to zero. And the cash flow of their legacy business could pay back the debt that they've accrued up to this point within like, I think he said 3 or 4 quarters, like within a year.
But who's going to get hurt in that process?
I guess everybody attached to that build out, like
all the people who are have them shit in their 401ks and right. I think, for example, the insurance industry could completely and utterly implode.
Well, I think it can implode for separate reasons, but that's
right. Yeah. But think if that was the only bubble, it would be a big bubble. Because here's what the insurance companies are. Insurance companies are companies which you give them money and you say, look, in some number of decades, you're going to pay me a lot of money back. Right?
Yeah.
How many companies are still around in many decades?
I don't know.
But that's a real problem.
Have you been following Nick Namath's coverage of the life insurance and the
Little
private
bit,
credit, private
little
equity?
A little bit. But I sure as hell wouldn't buy an annuity from anyone. I wouldn't, right? There's just, I think Social Security is safer than these insurance annuities. Because they can print money.
Yeah.
But the insurance companies are probably loaded to the gills with private credit and alternative investments because the Federal Reserve, I wonder what happened to Rudy. Federal Reserve made them reach, forced them to reach.
Well, not only that, well, like Nick, so I've had two conversations with Nick.
By the way, I find Mel complicated. I'll just leave it at that.
I do as well. But back on the insurance thing, like what Nick has been pointing out is that a lot of the private equity funds saw what Buffett was doing with like Geico, and they're like, we can do that. And so they've been going and buying up insurance companies and then replacing the asset manager of the balance sheet assets with like an internal sort of agnostic sort of capital allocator who will invest across the spectrum, and replacing it with themselves as the asset manager of the insurance balance sheet, and then pushing it into their own products, which are then taking private equity risk and private credit risk in sort of like software as a service companies and this AI build out to a certain extent, instead of buying like treasuries or I'm sure they have treasuries, but they're taking more risk within their own portfolios and sort of double dipping.
Have you read The Plunderers by Gretchen Morgensen and Josh Rosner?
No.
That should be on your reading list because it shows the medical industry and how it's treated by private equity. And if you simply read that and you say, okay, let's assume that other things they touch, they're doing the same thing. They take totally viable companies, strip mine them, load them with debt, gut the place, sell them into the open market because monetary policy is too loose. So they're actually our consumers of stupid purchases. And then those companies with a 47% rate go bankrupt after being resold into the market. 47%. And so all of a sudden you have some hospital that they bought in Indiana in some town, and now they don't have a hospital. So I'm sitting there thinking, I got a relative who dies. I find out the reason they died is because of some private equity deal. I'm going to go find the CEO. I'm going to let him know what I think of him.
Yeah.
Was that obtuse enough?
What's up, freaks? When you take Bitcoin seriously, you start with custody. You want to control your keys, avoid single points of failure, and make sure your savings cannot disappear because you or someone else screwed up. That is what Unchained has been focused on since 2016. Unchained is the leader in collaborative multi-sig custody and Bitcoin financial services that keep you in control. They secure over $12 billion in Bitcoin for more than 12,000 clients. That means about 1 out of every 200 Bitcoin sits inside an Unchained vault. Their model is simple. You hold 2 keys, they hold 1 key. And it always takes 2 keys to move Bitcoin, meaning their single key can't access your Bitcoin on its own. Just resilient, shared custody that gives you institutional-grade security while keeping you sovereign. Unchained also lets you trade straight from your vault, access Bitcoin-backed commercial loans, open a Bitcoin IRA where you hold your own keys, and set up personal, business, trust, or retirement vaults. They even offer inheritance solutions built for long-term hodlers. Or opt for the highest level private client service with Unchained Signature and get a dedicated account manager, discounted trading fees, exclusive access to events and features, and much, much more. If you want a partner that helps you secure and grow your Bitcoin without giving up control, go to unchained.com and use the code TFTC10 at checkout to get 10% off your new Bitcoin multisig vault. That's TFTC10 at unchained.com.
All right, freaks. You know me. You know I don't take sponsor money from products I wouldn't use myself. So listen up. The Aven Bitcoin Visa card is one of the most interesting things I've seen in the Bitcoin lending space in a long time. Here's the deal. You can get a line of credit up to $1 million backed by your Bitcoin without selling a single sat. No games, no annual fees, no minimum draws, and your Bitcoin is custodied by BitGo, which is one of the most trusted names in digital asset security. Aven never lends it out. There's no rehypothecation. You stay in control. And guess what? You can lock in a fixed rate for up to 10 years. That's 10 times longer than most lenders out there, or go interest only for up to 5 years. Rates start at 7.99% APR for a product that lets you keep your stack and still access liquidity. It's hard to beat. I mean, the duration in the rates is the best I've seen in the market to date. You also get 2% unlimited cash back every time you use the card. Spend fiat, keep your Bitcoin. the whole game. If you've been stacking for years and you need liquidity without triggering a taxable event, this is worth a serious look. Go to aven.com/Bitcoin. That's AVEN.com/Bitcoin. Check it out.
Rudy might be out for the count on this one. I don't know what happened.
Oh, fucking Rudy. Rudy's one of the few people who, so some number of years ago, that's in excess of a dozen, I showed up on Twitter after being on other chat boards since the late 90s. And he's one of the few people, you know, they say you can only keep track of like 100 people in your lives, and you can't, your sphere of friends
Dunbar's
and
number,
influence.
it's 180.
Yeah, something like that, right? And I have connections with guys like you and stuff because we occasionally podcast, and you know, and so that keeps us connected. But Rudy is one of the very few people in those early days that is still very much sort of in my sort of inner circle of influence. And I think part of it because he does a good job of keeping the relationship going well. But Rudy and I exchange DMs. We've been doing it for 15 years now or something. And in some sense, I find it frustrating. So I enjoyed Twitter when I had 350 followers, and I would chat with them. You know?
Right.
And I'd know them, you know, and you know that was guys like Eddie Dowd, and I still occasionally, I did a podcast with Eddie the other day, but you can only go down so many rabbit holes, pay attention to so many things, and I think I spread myself too thin. So I'm aware of the evils of the world in too many categories, and probably therefore have just a skim coat understanding of them. But I think we got some real problems. I think that the lack of accountability, and so, you know, why would you ever worry about breaking the law if you know you're never going to go to jail?
Right. And that's what going back to that newsletter I wrote earlier this week in the context of Gen Z. And like you, like I had hope for Trump, and I won't lie, like I still like there's that part
Have
of me.
some
It's
remote hope.
It's like turn it around.
I think he's lost me. He's lost me.
But
The
I'm
Iran
getting
war
back.
lost me. The Iran war,
Same.
war lost me.
Now that it's expanding and like Saudi's getting bombed by Yemen, it's like, okay, we're just doing exactly what we did post 9/11. Here's another 20-year war.
But this one's riskier.
Yeah.
This one's way riskier. Post 9/11, we stomped around like the meanest bastard on the planet. And at no point were we as a country at risk. And then next up comes the Ukraine war. And all of a sudden we got politicians talking about nuking Russian stuff. And now they talk about how, Ukraine's doing serious damage to Russia. I go, you really think that's Ukraine doing that? You really think that's Ukraine doing that? Ukraine can't even field a goddamn army because everyone's either dead or left. Right? Ukraine's a ghost town. So the pain being inflicted on Russia is NATO. And if you had told me 10 years ago that we would be bombing sites in Russia, I would have thought you were insane. Now I realize they are insane. And at some point, so I did a poll on Twitter. I love polls because sometimes I use them to get other people to say what I don't want to say. And sometimes I actually use it to find out what people are actually thinking or what they know. And I said, hypothetically, Putin loses his shit and starts dropping some serious weaponry on Main Street Europe. Who do you blame? And I gave us the choice: Putin, I think it was Trump USA, NATO, and I think I had a fourth one, I can't remember. But the only thing I cared about is what percentage of the people blame Putin. The rest were just the other potential candidates to blame. And you can sum them all up and say they're not Putin, right? And it turns out Putin got something like 4% of the vote. Everyone understands that we've been pushing Putin's buttons. Really? I can't even, I only have one next to me. I can hear you.
Yeah. Logan's interjecting about the snoring, but yeah, no, Putin only got 4%.
Something like that. It was single digit, guaranteed single digit. It might have been 8, might have been, I'm guessing. I could go look it up. We understand. To me, Putin's one of the most grounded leaders in the world. He's not a good guy. I mean, he's a tough guy. But Justin Trudeau wasn't going to run Russia either.
Yeah.
Come on, you punk. Wake up. Wake up.
It was like, how do you solve, like, again, going back to it, like, what is the hope? Like, do we have to do something external and put pressure on the system?
I think it's fourth turning shit. I think we got to go through the valley of death. That's my metaphor. You don't go into the valley of death and go out and come back out. You go through it. You just gotta, Billy Goat Scruff, whatever. So
would you say are we in the beginning stages of that? Are we?
Well, chronologically speaking, we should be pretty far along, but it's like a fireworks display where if you're half done, what percentage of the fireworks have been blown off? And the answer is probably 15%, right? Because they all blow them off at the end. And so I think quit snoring. Come on, stop snoring. How can you snore while I'm rubbing you like this? So I think the grand finale, get off here, go over there, go somewhere else. I just can't let him go. I can't, no choice. So what do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, that's the, I think the core, like I truly believe the money is the core of the problem and we need to fix it. I
agree
that, and that is, again, going back to like becoming dejected. It's like, for me, like refocusing on Bitcoin, using the AI tools to get it out there. Like, I don't think it's looking good. I think Gen Z particularly is more polarized than any generation of our lifetime before it. And you either have the Mandami socialist or like the Tradcast, like send them all back. We are like literally inspired.
They're extreme.
By what Hitler did to the Third Reich. Like we want a leader like that. Like we want to like that.
Well, for example, there's a great example of Trump owning it. You're not going to send 20 million people back home one at a time. And so he has this highly visible ICE thing going on. And I go, I can't imagine. There had to have been a better way.
Yeah.
And the better way, by the way, would be to punish the fuck out of the guys employing them.
Yeah.
Right? Make it not possible to stay. And I think they did get a lot of self-deportations. So I think there was some logic to it. But I think you just, the Mexicans have never been a problem. They're part of our economy, right? I'm not asking to send Mexicans back to Mexico. But I think you somehow have to say to the company, Arthur Daniels, Midland, whatever, say if you're using illegals, you better tell us who they are or we're going to shut you down.
Yeah, or fine you. And I mean, bringing it back to like the fourth turning, where are we? I mean, we're beginning to see the political violence come back. I mean, it's small example, but like earlier this week in New York, when the guy threw the gasoline and like lit it up and fired, that gave me like.
Did you see my tweet on that? You probably didn't because the world's too big now. I showed a picture of it. And it's like a dumpster, right? It's like essentially a dumpster lit on fire or something in front of the building. And I said, why aren't they evacuating the building? Did we learn nothing from Building 7?
That's a good one.
I know.
But it's like you get small. Like you can see that bubbling up. Like you had the people shooting at ICE officers in Dallas.
But it was way worse with George Floyd.
Yeah, you're talking about chronologically, where are we? Like that, like bubbling up. You can go back to 2020. Like it started then.
But the finale, the real end of the fourth turning, as again, and it's it's really sociology and trying to put a real tight bow on it, and that doesn't work very well. But it's been a pretty good model. It has been a pretty good model, and the grand finale, and Ray Dalio, who I think is way overrated, created a 6-cycle thing just to make sure it was different than the fourth turning. But the final stage is usually a really horrific war.
Yeah,
real turbulence.
People have been talking about World War III. You get 2022. You get Ukraine, Russia. This year, you get Iran, U.S.
Well, if Putin starts hurling serious weapons into Paris or something, into Berlin,
do you think he's getting to the point where he may do that?
I think he's getting pressure. I listen to guys like Mearsheimer, who it's not to say he doesn't have it wrong, but I think he's trying to get it right. And I find it so frustrating that people, I was on a podcast and I was with friends several times. This has happened to me where people talk about the evil Iranians. And I go, you are aware that we bombed them, right? And then they say, well, but they're going to get a nuke. And I go, you are aware that Netanyahu's been saying that for 30 fucking years, right? And I go, Iran could destroy Israel this week. I'm positive. Iran could destroy Israel this week. All they have to do is send the drone swarm and hit the Israel's 7 desalination plants, and Israel will die of thirst in a week. Because unlike Iran, Israel depends, something like 90% of their fresh water comes from desalination plants. And so then the question is, and people say, well, the reason they don't is, why haven't they done it? I said, well, most people give the argument because mutually assured destruction, blah, 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 blah. I go, how about the possibility that maybe Israel's not as a medieval society as much as you think, and that they know that that's not the right thing to do? How about that? Are you willing to entertain that possibility? Because here's what I like to encourage people to do, and I don't know if this does any good, but I tell everyone on every podcast when this topic comes up, I go to YouTube and search Streets of Tehran. Look for videos about this that show the streets of Tehran. And tell me it doesn't look like New York City, except they're not burning shit down and it's clean. They're extraordinary. You could do it right now. You can boot it up and share it, and boom. Streets of Tehran, they're beautiful. It's like when they show the Moscow subway system, you go, that's a lot cleaner than New York's, that's for damn sure. And so I think it's quite possible that the Iranians actually do have a moral compass.
Yeah, and I think it's not only incredibly naive, but like the whole Western propaganda arm is just like, we're seeing this in
which
AI
is
too.
Way worse than everyone else's.
And that's where it gets very frustrating, because it creates a frame where it's impossible to even make the assumption that you just put forward. Maybe they have a good moral compass, and like we're seeing this in AI too, where it's this existential race for dominance in AI between the United States and China. And you just look at the contradiction of like the values that have been espoused that we're supposed to believe that each country holds, and you have two major companies here, in Anthropic and OpenAI. They have a closed source model, closed weight model. They're not sharing it with the world, and they're obviously, if you're paying attention, they want a regulatory moat. They want to be the god kings of the AI future. Whereas in China, that's where like they have the open weight models that are keeping pace. And I actually just wrote about it in the newsletter this morning. Like DeepSeek, their CEO gave like a 4-hour interview, and he explained their perspective on how they're building their AI model. And it's just like, hey, we think this is good for humanity. We're going to price things appropriately so people can get access to it. We're going to be as efficient. We're going to be hyper focused. We're going to be long-term thinking, and we think humanity should have access to this. And we've been taught like China's this communist country, which it is to an extent, but having worked with Chinese in the Bitcoin mining industry, these people are hyper capitalistic. Like the Chinese citizens, all they care about is making money at the end of the day. Like it's actually pretty impressive. And they can get shit done. And then like the US, it's really like the intent of the frontier model providers and Anthropic and OpenAI, like it's not explicit, but I think implicitly it's get the regulatory moat, become the AI god kings, bring the surveillance state. Where the communist country is creating like the liberty minded, like open system. And there's just like this weird contradiction that exists.
I know, it seems backwards, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever dug into Sam Altman's background?
Oh yeah, he's weird.
He's just a hypester. He's a Ronco salesman. He's not a techie. He's not gifted. He's not some boy genius. He's just a hose bag. And I think it was Peter Thiel who sort of pulled him up saying, I know how to use this guy. And so he's not some genius farsighted guy. He is just the pitch man. He is fucking selling goddamn, pillows.
And he's a sociopath.
And he's undoubtedly a sociopath. And did you see the interview where Tucker interviewed him and accused him in the usual Tuckerian way, where he didn't actually accuse him of killing his coworker? And so Tucker asked him a question, well, it's kind of suspicious the way your coworker died. And Sam says, sounds like you're accusing me. And Tucker goes, oh, no, I'm not accusing you. It's just fine. It's very odd. It went back and forth about 3 fucking times. And I'm going, Tucker is accusing you of killing your coworker.
Yeah. And I mean, there's
so the problem we
there's
have,
smoke there.
This I know. The one of the merits of the Chinese system, which I don't think, I'm loath to defend, but it doesn't have the Sam Altmans running around doing this shit. We to the extent that we used to have checks and balances, our system worked better. You take away the checks and balances and accountability, and now you have this crazy situation where we're running around threatening everyone, tariffing everyone, bombing everyone, and China's going around, hey, can we build you a port? Can we build you factories? Let us help out here, right? Holy shit! Who's winning this game, right? I think, by the way, what's your take on the? Let's go to the Iran war for who's winning. Who's winning the Iran war?
Looking at oil prices, not the American citizen, I would say. I mean,
well,
like,
but to me, the game theory is that Iran just has to outlast us, because I think their goal has to be their number one goal has to be, when this is over, we need the Western world to swear off ever attacking us again.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're doing total point for point escalation. And the scariest one, there was a post yesterday from the Strait of Hormuz or something. It looks like it's an outlet for the Iranians to me. And it says, we're going to do tit for tat. And you guys have tried to bomb our leaders and their families. And we know where you live, and we're going to do that too now. And we know you civilian infrastructure. We have not attacked that, but you're attacking that. So we're going to do that too now, which all of a sudden, next thing you know, boom, they start attacking infrastructure. The Iranians are matching blow for blow the whole way.
Yeah. And it's with a degree of restraint too. It's like, hey,
with a degree of restraint.
And it does seem like a war of attrition, because you have Bessent coming out and others saying they have 180% inflation. Like, I guess the Western perspective is hit them hard enough and long enough that their economy crumbles and they have
Take out Persia, which has survived 3,000 years.
Right.
3,000 years. By the way, you never win. You don't win wars when they have home field advantage. Home field advantage is everything. Guys in Vietnam, we couldn't beat them. They were in pajamas and sandals. Home field advantage is everything, because they got nowhere to go. During World War II, the Germans did end up losing, I think. One thing's for sure is the Soviets won, not us, not Europe. The Soviets won because they ended up with half of Europe. on our dime. But I lost my train of thought. But the reason the Germans fought so hard at the end is they didn't want, they were afraid of the Soviets. That's why the war started, actually, in my opinion. It was Germany was afraid of the Soviet Union.
Yeah. And, well, the other thing, bringing this back to Iran, it's like, I thought like a month ago, I was like, okay, we got the memorandum of understanding, we got the ceasefire. It's like, okay.
I didn't think that would hold at all.
You didn't? I was holding out hope, like, hey, maybe just eat our lunch.
No, Israel doesn't want it to hold.
Well, like, that's the confusing thing is like now they're saying they don't want to enter the war. So they're just...
they don't want to enter the war. Of course they don't.
But how long can this persist, or how long will this persist now if things escalate?
As long as AIPAC dumps money into the pockets of our politicians.
Yeah.
This is the problem. Wasn't it 2 days ago we merged the militaries, whatever that means?
I guess in the House, I think the Senate vote still needs to go through.
Well, if that goes through, you can kiss your ass goodbye, in my opinion.
Yeah. Are we a sovereign nation?
Yeah, the state of Israel.
Yeah. It's it's weird times.
It is very weird times. Israel wants us to shed our blood to take out their enemies. It's that simple. And they don't want this war to end. They want Iran to get flattened.
I find that hard. I mean, to come to your point, like Persia's been around for 3,000 years, and if you think of the topology of the country too, how mountainous it is, like it seems.
Well, we also learned why no one has ever conquered Afghanistan, right?
Yeah,
it's the same sort of problem. But when Iran said part of the deal is you have to stop bombing Lebanon. Now, there's two ways to look at it. One is they knew that Israel wouldn't, and therefore they put it there so that they didn't have to make a deal. The other is that it's the high road, and they're saying, we don't like the fact you're bombing Lebanon.
Yeah, the Lebanon incursion is incredibly egregious in my mind, where it's like, why?
Right.
Yeah, you'll scream Hezbollah and all that.
Which is
like,
more egregious, Lebanon or Gaza?
I mean, Gaza's been going on for so, like Lebanon, I know Lebanese people.
Well, the reason you don't know anyone from Gaza is because they're all dead.
Yeah. I mean, Seyfedin Ammous, I mean, he's
and they haven't been let out. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
They've been in a concentration camp for decades.
And it's weird. Why is this such a third rail that people can't touch? Because, I mean, obviously you're not
money and power.
Yeah.
The other thing is that you could criticize Israel until October 7th. So you could say Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad. No one gave a shit. But when October 7th occurred, Israel took off the gloves and said, we will punish anyone we can get our mitts on, which includes podcasters.
Yeah.
But I'm pissed at him. You know, I called the head of the JNS a pig fucking liar after he called me a Holocaust denying Nazi.
When did he do that? Did he do that on X or?
Last year.
Yeah.
He wrote an article about me. He called me a Holocaust denying Nazi.
Yeah.
Marty Klein.
A Nazi. Well,
actually, I didn't call him a pig fucking liar. What I said is I would never call you a pig fucking liar because I couldn't defend that completely.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like everybody's getting called a Nazi. It's like, okay, it's like the term racist.
Well, the anti-Semite label is wearing off. It's used to be people were terrified of being called an anti-Semite. Now, fuck you.
Yeah.
The number one, there's a spiking anti-Semitism. The problem is because of Israel.
Yeah.
Right? You want to stop anti-Semitism, stop bombing the shit out, stop kicking people out of their homes. Can you imagine what would you do if some guy if Canada somehow got feisty and came along and took your home? and kicked you out of your home, killed your relatives, what would you do?
Yeah.
You'd become a terrorist.
Yeah. And to your point, it's been going on for decades.
But before they kicked me out, if they kicked me out of my home, the guys who moved in would not survive. They would. I've thought about this, the squatting problem we have in the United States. I guarantee you no one could squat in my house. I guarantee you. I'm going to show you. See, I've shown you this before. See that lake out there?
Yeah.
Can you see it? Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Goes...
Yeah. That's a deep lake. You could hide a squatter at the bottom of that lake. So if anyone came to my house and squatted, I would just go in there with the Louisville Slugger. And I would just beat the living piss out of them. And I'd say, if you want to go to the cops, the next one's going to be fatal. You can now leave my house, go get some health care, and I don't ever want to see you again. And if you show up again, you're going to die. That's how I'd handle it.
Yeah.
Why is that irrational? I'm on a jury and that happens? The guy's getting off. I'm hanging that jury. Did you see the guy who wrote fake vaccine papers for people? Fake vaccine cards for people?
I thought it was a woman, the nurse.
No, I think it was a doctor. Maybe there's several. I don't know. But they dropped the charges. Now, we got a problem when that shows you the absurdity of the situation, though. Because he shouldn't have to do that either.
Right.
So it's accountability.
Where was this? Well, again, I think that's a core theme of this conversation is accountability. That's...
And swinging back to healthcare, by the way, I will never get another vaccine. Never, ever, ever get another vaccine. I don't trust them. Another good book is Vaccine Amen by Aaron Siri. I thought I'd read everything I could about COVID. I don't want to read another, but I read it. You can't get to the end of that book without swearing off vaccines forever. Forever. Aaron Siri is a lawyer. He fought the cases. He uses court transcripts. He shows you the sociopathic crime syndicate upfront, personal. And he basically deposed every single major vaccinologist in the country. And the transcripts show he tore them to shreds.
And this is the guy
because there's never been a vaccine that was tested correctly.
No,
there's never been a vaccine that was tested correctly.
This is the bald guy, right? That's been testifying to Congress. They came out with a study at what was it, the Cincinnati hospital.
So someone like Fauci should be taken to The Hague, tried for crimes against humanity, and executed.
Well, that's
real straightforward.
Going back to accountability, that's the frustrating part. They'll leave little breadcrumbs.
I don't see how Fauci survives.
We're going to drag him in.
Yeah.
But they're saying they're going to drag him in. They have it. It's
they're not going to.
But they're not going to. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is like they know people want accountability, and so they'll like put a carrot out there. Like, yeah, we're going to bring it in. Don't worry. And then it never happens.
I'll tell you what worked. A judge released an illegal immigrant who then went out and raped and killed some girl. The judge let him out, and I think it was the next day or a day or two later, the judge walked out their front door and there was the guy's head on the doorstep.
Really?
Yeah. Go ahead. Let him out. We'll deal with him.
Yeah. Well,
they used to hang horse thieves, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's where the fourth turning vibes really come back. It's like
that's exactly right.
If you don't have any accountability, like people are going to take it into their own hands. And
that's exactly right. And right now, the guilt is diffuse. So if you actually say, what's the guilt of the COVID? Well, I produced a guilt hierarchy one year where I said at the very bottom are the guys who unknowingly did something. That's fine. I have a problem. There's the guys who knowingly did something, but they were told, look, either you do this or you have to give up your career. I understand that. I took the vaccine because I was told you had to quit your job. We will fire you if you don't take the vaccine. And so I took the vaccine. I waited. I did the risk-reward ratio measurement, and I said, okay, it's a risk I got to take. They're forcing me to do it. I told the president of the university they blew it. I was pretty clear on that. And And I've got health issues that maybe are from it, but I got away with it.
Has there been any accountability there? Has anybody admitted, like, hey, we regret?
There have been organizations who've been sued for back pay and stuff for firing people. The problem I had was, remember the vaccine came out in 2021. I'd gotten canceled in 2020. Very unpleasant experience, I should add, even though I like to think of myself as fairly resilient. But when you've got thousands of signatures trying to get you fired and graffiti all over the campus and articles written daily about how you should be fired, things like that's unpleasant. And I just kind of wrote it out because it was during the lockdown. And what I didn't know is if Antifa was going to come and get me. And so I slept with loaded guns, and I was emotionally ready to blow someone's brains out. And didn't have to because we're locked down, and Antifa probably doesn't have cars. Right after that, I got told you're going to lose your job if you don't vaccinate. And I had people saying, well, you should just fight it. And I go, there are people waiting for me to make a mistake. This is not like they're going to say, oh, we can't lose Dave. We'll just let him off the hook. There are people who say, got him. So I couldn't take the risk.
Yeah.
And, I could have quit my job. I shouldn't have to make that choice. I don't blame the president of the university for doing it. And again, I told him, I said, you blew it. At one point I sent him an email. I've had some interesting exchange. I've known him since the day he got to Cornell. And what got me canceled was I fought two labor movements on campus where the first one, I played a major role, but wasn't critical. And the unionization, which was a bad idea, lost on its own merits, lack of merits. And there was some smearing that went on, but otherwise not a big deal. The second one was when Randi Weingarten showed up with her labor union. And I got a call from the provost, who is now the president, and said, we need you to organize a counterattack. Late night, 10:30 in the evening, no emails, no nothing like that. But I was on speed dial with Cornell Legal. If I had a question, boom, they'd put me right through to Cornell Legal. And so I organized a team, and we won it by a whisker. And the only reason we won it is because I picked a fight, and they bit. They took the bait. Mm-hmm. And then we had this fight, and we finally got the issues out on the table because of this fight. And they were mad at me, so they smeared the shit out of me. Those same issues and people were behind the cancellation in 2020. And so I'm a bit infamous on campus.
Yeah, well, I think you're a bit infamous beyond campus too.
I think so. I'm told. But there's one day I put out a tweet. This is a funny story. I put out a tweet and I said, Cornell was getting bad press. And I said, Cornell's been in the press a lot lately. It's getting bad press. This is a fairly utopian existence, and it's silly that faculty talk about being oppressed, right? We've got it made. And I said, what we have to do is just find a way to get out of the news cycle. That's it. That's our only problem. That was basically my tweet. And I get a call from my brother-in-law, and he reads part of the tweet. Now, who's my brother-in-law? My brother-in-law is Ezra Cornell, by birth trustee. My wife is Candace Cornell. And he reads me part of the tweet. I said, Ezra, how'd you see that? He said, my boss sent it to me. I said, Daphne, how did she see it? That's his wife. And he said, no, my other boss. And I said, you're self-employed. He said, the chairman of the board of trustees. And he calls him and says, Ezra, you by chance know this guy? Because Ezra Cornell in Ithaca kind of knows everybody, right? This is not a name you hide in Ithaca. And he calls him and says, do you by chance know this guy? And Ezra says to the chairman of the board, he says, yeah, it's my brother-in-law. And they laughed. And he was just thrilled. that there was someone on the faculty who wasn't a douchebag.
Yeah.
And so
actually had some common sense.
And, and when I was getting canceled, I was spending hours on the phone with David Einhorn and with my brother-in-law and stuff like that. I had friends in very high places. Both of them went into the president's office independently and said, don't even think about doing something stupid here. And so I wasn't going to get fired, but it was still miserable.
Yeah.
And I don't want to fight that again. And then last year when I went on Tucker and I made the mistake of in an effort to describe how Stalin was horrific, I made reference to him being, worse than Hitler, and that one could argue we should have sided with Hitler and fought Stalin. And by the way, I was quoting Patton. George Patton at the end of the war said that. And then the Jews went at me.
I mean,
the Zionists.
Yeah.
And so I'm pissed at the Zionists, not the Jews. I've talked to many of my colleagues, one of which actually spent 2 years in an attic in Germany. And none of them support what they're seeing. They're all frustrated. They're all potentially suffering from anti-Semitism, which is caused by Israel.
Yeah, I think very obviously, especially with the BB. BB, and then like you have that hardcore Zionist sort of Orthodox sect.
Yeah, I don't even understand the Christian Zionists. Those like Huckabee.
Oh, I mean, they believe in what is it, the Schofield's Bible, where they think they want everything to pop off there because they believe.
I want a signed copy of the Schofield Bible.
Yeah.
Boy, did Tucker take him to the cleaners. He did it just like he did Ted Cruz, which is why Ted Cruz went at me last year, and why Laura Loomer went at me last year, and why Mark Levin went at me last year. And I called Laura Loomer. I said she's the master of clickbaiting, and then referred to from that point on in the write-up as the masturbator. But then Victor Davis Hanson not only went at me, who I thought was a good guy, but he went at me repeatedly. And he was wrong. He was wrong. He was factually wrong.
What was he saying about you?
Well, he was saying, first of all, that my quoting of Patton wasn't right because Patton said it at the end of the war. And I go, yeah, what's your point? And then I said in the Tucker interview, I said, maybe there wouldn't have even been a Holocaust if the alliances, because Hitler was actually looking to form an alliance with Britain. If we had formed an alliance with Britain, there might be a lot fewer dead Jews, because you control your allies a lot better than you control your enemies. So maybe the Holocaust wouldn't have occurred, right? That's a counterfactual argument. That's just saying, what if we had fought? Then I go, this is not a butterfly flapping its wings. This is a big change. Maybe it wouldn't have occurred.
Yeah, and that's the.
And Hansen said that's preposterous. I go, no, it's not fucking preposterous.
Well, it's like the thought control. It's like, why can't you even have a thought experiment to explore something?
Right,
like this?
that's all it was. And as Tucker said, as he attacked Levin for attacking me, he said, how's that anti-Semitic? What are you talking about? And Levin was sort of threatening to use the power of television to go at me and stuff. And I called him a rabid bobcat in heat. But it was shocking. It was like a little PTSD from getting canceled, 5 years earlier.
Yeah.
Resurfaced. And so I was really a little dazed and confused by it. And I asked the question, do you really want to play in the big leagues like this? Do you really want to get into these fights? Are you Candace Owens? Because if you're not, be careful. And but I've kind of realized watching Dave Smith and Candace Owens and these guys, I go, you're a fucking pussy. You know that? You're a fucking pussy if you don't get out there and say, this is a genocide. And by the way, October 7th was clearly a false flag. Clearly a false flag.
I mean, effort.
So they held the door wide open. Here's what I did. I wrote about it, but didn't publish it. I'm going to use it, I think. I think I'm going to publish it. But using exclusively Israeli sources, I can make the case that Netanyahu knew they were coming months in advance. Months in advance.
Well, she's in Bitcoin now, but like Efrat, she's a journalist, and she was
Efrat, I've had several conversations with, yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think she's been in the Israeli
And
military.
Efrat makes me feel like a pussy because she's out there fighting the good fight, and Brett Weinstein was out there fighting the good fight, and he makes me. So I said, okay, so you got to stay in the game. You got to go on Brett's podcast, and you got to go on podcasts and make the case that this is a genocide, that these guys are douchebags, so I read a bunch of books on the origin of Palestine-Israel conflict and stuff like that. A guy named Pape wrote a very nice book, and some others trying to understand. And the people think that the Jewish state of Israel started in the whole thing was triggered by World War II. It wasn't. It was in the making at the turn of the century. They just used the war as the final launching pad. But October 7th, here's a question I'd like to ask. I said, is there a country that doesn't lie to optimize this narrative? Can you name one? The answer is no. There's no country that doesn't lie to optimize this narrative, right? Propaganda. Every country uses it. Therefore, I said, what happened on October 7th? And I watched people kind of recoil back a little bit because they realize that my rhetorical question is going to be a problem for them. And then someone will say, often I get something like, well, we know a lot of people died. And I go, really? How many? How many died? Do you know? How many hostages were there? Do you know? Were some of the hostages possibly being put up in Motel 8s, being fed prime rib, waiting to be released and to tell their horror story? Were some of the people who were killed possibly killed by Israeli fire? If I'd asked you, Marty, on October 6th, Hamas is going to drop 800 guys by paraglider into Israel, how long would it take for Israel to clean up that mess? One thing I have great faith in is that Israel knows how to defend itself. I would have said maybe 10 minutes, but I'm not sure they would have made it to the ground alive. They didn't run around raping and pillaging and taking hostages for 8 hours. There's no chance Israel let that happen. There's no chance Israel couldn't have stopped that. No chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
I mean, that's what like Efrat reported on, like while it was happening. She was like,
so Efrat's first report, I think, was on a podcast with Brett Weinstein, and they very, very delicately talked about what didn't make sense. You could see them sort of walking out on the thin ice going, holy fuck, this is nerve-wracking. I take my hat off to both of those two. And I don't blame the Jews of the world for not speaking up. That's, it's something like Title IX, right? The transgenders in sports, right? Preposterous situation, absurd situation. I directly blame all the adult former female athletes for not speaking up. Where the fuck were they? They benefited from sports. They should have said, what the fuck are you doing to women's sports? And they didn't. You're cowards. I blame you. And then Riley Gaines finally came out and started doing it. And now you don't get hammered but Riley Gaines took the arrows, right? She took the arrows. But a Jew who comes out against Israel is really going in harm's way. And so I understand why they don't want to speak up. They're asking for so much trouble. But someone's got to. I thought Trump was going to.
Yeah, it's just like, from my perspective, I got into, like, I'm very, like, the wars in the Middle East growing up radicalized me to the point of, like, becoming, like, very anti-war. I still am to this day.
I'm profoundly anti-war. I make the hippies of the 60s look like bikers.
It's just, no, it's just very, very concerning to see that we're getting back in the Middle Eastern wars and that this is going on. It's allowed to persist, and that it is like a third world topic because, like, again, like I grew up in the Philly area. Like half my middle school was Jewish. I've got Jewish friends that work with Jewish people, and I think
doesn't vaccinate you. That vaccine doesn't work either.
No,
like, some of my best friends are black. No, it doesn't work.
No,
I don't even. My brother said several times, you should say that, and I go, no, because it's a hollow statement. That it's I have Jewish friends. Well, here's an interesting question I've had. This is when I got to Cornell. I think probably half my colleagues were Jewish in chemistry. What I'll also tell you is I didn't know because it wasn't a variable for me. Right. It wasn't anything I cared about. So I knew a couple, like one who has a Nobel Prize who lived in the attic. I knew he was Jewish, right? That was no problem. But I later found out other colleagues were Jewish. I go, I didn't know, right? And what's interesting is now they're not. And I don't know why. So the Jewish influence, it's like they've been replaced by Chinese nationals or something. I don't know. But where did these exceedingly bright and talented and ambitious where'd they go? My guess is Wall Street or Silicon Valley or something, right? Somehow chemistry. It's also possible that Cornell, for some historical reason, which I don't have a good feel for, maybe was one of the first schools to hire Jews regularly. And so it's conceivable. Related story. There's a guy named Henry Gilman, published 1,400 papers at Iowa State. Should have got the Nobel Prize for that. What he really should have gotten the Nobel Prize for was he recruited black students back when it wasn't cool, back in the 50s, in the 40s, to go to grad school at Ohio State. There's a picture of Henry, old man, sitting in a chair, surrounded by 5 black guys in suits who are college and university presidents who work for him. That is changing society. So we might have had a very heavy Jewish influence at Cornell because somehow we embraced them first. We were one of the early schools to embrace them. I don't know. We had a guy named Peter Debye, who was one of the most famous classical physicists of the 20th century, early 20th century, Nobel Prize, you name it, left Germany in 1939, and at one point, someone wrote a book claiming he was a Nazi. And there's Debye Institutes all over Europe. They're called Debye Institutes. He was really that famous. He was sort of in the Einstein world. And in fact, in the famous picture, Foundations of Modern Physics, where there's like 30 physicists, Einstein and de Broglie and these guys, he's in that picture. And so he was at Cornell. And when I was probably about 1986 or 7 or something like that, this book came out and they started peeling his name off the Debye Institutes in Europe. They all got cowardly. They started yanking his name off, and the evidence was Spartan. Someone found a goddamn letter in which he wrote Heil Hitler. Well, in Germany, if you didn't say Heil Hitler, you ended up in a gulag somewhere. So, and he also helped families get out of Germany, Jewish families and stuff. So it was just an absurd accusation. So instead of pulling his name off chair positions and stuff that we have in chemistry, we hired a historian. Said, go find out what the truth is. And he came back and we wrote an article in Physics Today and said, this is why we are not abandoning Peter Debye. And we were correct. Now, here's an interesting subplot. I know I'm rambling.
I love your rambles.
We wrote a letter sort of from the department that denouncing the people who denounced DeBuy, one person dissented. It was my colleague who lived in an attic for 2 years. And he wrote an independent letter, and he has tremendous influence with his Nobel Prize and stuff. And I remember at the time feeling betrayed by him, although I understood. And over the years, I realized, no, you should almost never sign a group letter because group letters require you compromise. It's got to be some bland bullshit thing that you somehow all agreed to sign. But it's not what you would have written if you wrote the letter. And I realized his dissent was a very important part of the process. And that I just was wrong thinking he shouldn't have dissent like that. Although, again, I understood it because he had to hate Nazis like no one else. And so I won't sign group letters. Some guy wrote a journal article, he's dead now, saying that women have heard organic chemistry. I didn't even read it. I'm thinking, you really didn't think that one through. Even if you can make a case why maybe affirmative action or something has done something, keep that to yourself, right? Society doesn't want to hear this. And he got pounded. And it was a German-based journal that published it, prominent. And some like 16 advisory board members from the US all resigned from the advisory board. I have a problem with that. I have a problem because you really didn't have a choice. You're going to be the one who says, I'm not resigning? No. You lost your autonomy when it became too politically hot. Mm-hmm. So you didn't dare speak up. So I really, really take my hat off to the people who stand up for the underdog when no one else will. Now, interestingly, there was evidence in the past that Trump was the guy who did this sort of thing. There's all these anecdotes of things where, like Dana, what's his name, the professional running, Dana White, and how Trump was the only guy who backed him.
Yeah. You have his first TV deal or something like that? Wasn't there like, I forget what it was,
But then here's the problem. I'm reading about Bush Family of Secrets, the book. And they say that what they do is they bury stories deep, years in advance, and then make it such that a journalist discovers it. And because they dug it up themselves, they really believe it. And they shepherd this story into the light. And so 30 years ago, Trump said, someday I think I'm going to run for president, I might need it. He can start burying these stories.
Seeding them.
Mm-hmm. To be used at a later date.
Yeah. Where do we go from here? What are you looking for?
Fourth turning.
Yeah.
I think we're very close. I've said this for so many years that it's absurd. I'm the broken clock. So I like to say to people who call me a broken clock, if when that broken clock is correct, it blows up your fucking house, you should start paying attention to what time it is. because and I put the probability that, put it this way, if you give me a choice of saying a correction to these current markets is 40% or 80 to 90%, I would have to take the latter. I do not believe 40% gets us anywhere. If you look at historically, right now, by every rational metric evaluation, we're about 200%, 3x. People don't understand that math even. They're so thick sometimes. If we're 200% over historical average valuation, we got a 65, 66% correction to get to the average valuation.
Yeah.
And my understanding of average is you got to spend half your time below it, half your time above it.
Mm-hmm.
or it's not your average. And if you look at things like the Case-Shiller PE from 1870 to 1990, it averaged 15. It's a reconstructed PE for those who are shitting their thong. It averaged 15, and now it's 42, 43. Right? It's way the fuck. They're all out of whack. They're all, Buffett's indicator, market cap to GDP. Well, then, and I've asked people, explain to me why that should trend. Their answers suck.
Well, then you get to like the consumer side, like housing looks like it's turning over. Obviously, inflation seems to be rearing its head again.
I think we should be raising rates.
It's on the table,
I think
it?
It is on the table. By the way, what do you think of Warsh? If you had to say, what's Warsh going to do?
I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what he's going to do. What I do know for certain
none
is
of us know. What's your guess? It's closest to the pin, Marty. You got to make the shot here. What's your call?
I think he does raise maybe a quarter of a point.
I don't mean short term, long term. What is his administration going to be?
They're going to be the one that basically welds the Treasury and the Fed together and makes it politically palatable. Like they're going to like fully nationalize this whole thing. That's what I think.
Is it possible that he's put in there as a hawk, which he has been for 15 years, to be the guy to take us into the valley of death?
I wouldn't be shocked.
Right. A lot of people say, oh, new boss, same as the old boss. I go, are you sure? Certainly Volcker wasn't new boss, same as the old boss. And Volcker didn't do it for us. They never do it for us. They did it because the banking system needed it. It had to projectile vomit. Volcker did it for the banking system, just like every other Fed chair. I think right now, we're in a situation where they go, we got to projectile vomit. Get Warsh in there, stick his finger down his throat, projectile vomit. Purge, and
then have the Treasury step in. I
think it could be part of the ultimate solution, the final solution, we should say, given our chat.
Well, just look at outside of everything we've discussed today. Just look at like the sort of trend towards nationalization, like buying equity stakes in Intel, Dell.
Oh my God!
Rare earth metals companies. It seems like they're making like wartime.
I could imagine something like that. I can't rule out the possibility that I could support something.
That's what stablecoins are to a certain extent.
Buying shares of Intel, no. And by the way, Intel's rolling over. It's just a burst. Trump probably made a ton of money. Did you see what his plan is now? He posts all his posts on Truth Social.
Yeah, now you got to pay to get it 5 minutes early.
That's right.
That's right. We talked about this.
Going, oh my God. Oh my God.
It's insane.
How is that? That's so absurdly criminal. I mean, that's worse than Melania coin or whatever. Then you got, here's another theory. I'm working on all these theories. So you got Ivanka, who she did her interview where they made her look angelic. They almost put wings on her. Everything was white. It was like she was in heaven. And she's talking about her and Jared were swimming and they discovered an island, with their buddy Nat Rothschild. I'm going, oh my God, gag me with a spoon, right?
It's like, are you like aware of all the conspiracies, or is this one of those things where you have to be like blatantly explicit, like in your face?
So the good news is the Albanians who own the island are saying, no, hell no, you're not taking our fucking island. It's not your island. I don't care. You're not buying it. I don't give a shit what you do. You're just not getting this island. And I'm hoping that holds up. But I'm looking at the fact that Trump has gone pro-Zionist. His daughter's married a very capable Jewish man. You go, okay, that happens. But he's also part of an exceedingly powerful Zionist family, which is getting a little coincidental now. And I start looking at this, I'm going, wait, let me see if I got this right. The King of France marries his daughter to the son of the King of Germany so that they have an alliance. What if Ivanka and Jared, by the way, so you go, oh, that's absurd. Turns out the matchmaking for those two supposedly was this Chinese woman who was very prominent. And their relationship started to go on the skids at one point, and she sort of swooped in again to try to save the day, supposedly. And she has ties to, God, who the hell is it? Peter Thiel or something? I mean, there's some strange things. So I'm wondering if if Ivanka didn't get married off to form an alliance, and that maybe the world's always been this way. We had this delusion. And while we were vastly economically superior post-World War II, what a perfect setup to become absolute dominant empire. We could afford to just produce our way past the problems.
Yeah.
And you could, you'd go to the gas station when I was a kid and 3 guys would come out and service your car while they filled your gas tank, right? That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Now you do your own tank.
Unless you're in New Jersey.
Unless you're in New Jersey, yeah. I never quite is that a lobby or something? What is that?
I don't know.
That's
low-level
I've always
jobs
wondered
program.
about that.
Yeah.
So it feels to me like we are going to, I don't think it's end of empire necessarily, but it is certainly going to be like, when the Roman Empire moved to Constantinople or something like that,
Well,
right? I mean, it's good.
That's one of the theories that's been thrown around is like maybe we're leaving the era of republic and into true empire. No, right? It's like egregious.
Well, the one thing Trump seems to be doing with his babbling about Greenland, which he was the 5th president to talk about taking Greenland. So that was not just Trump. Gulf of America, Venezuela, it's Monroe Doctrine, right? Mm-hmm. So if Trump has gotten the memo that, look, we're in a multipolar world, which is not good news for us, but it's one of those, you play the hand you're dealt, right? Say, okay, how do we not end up becoming real losers? You set up your little technate in the Western Hemisphere and say, this is ours, stay away.
I was all for that. Yeah, that's why.
I don't have a problem with that at all. I want to bring our carriers home. I want to tell Europe to defend itself and quit, by the way, picking a nuclear Holocaust fight with Russia. Let's start there. So no, that to me is, there's a savviness to it. And by the way, why should Denmark get Greenland?
Why do they have Greenland? I don't know the history there.
It's some historical thing. Some guy named Sven something or other, some guy. You ever see the Vikings series? It's really good on the History Channel.
No.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Ragnar Lothbrok and at one point, I'm so rambling. At one point, Floki, a real guy from the past, they're on Iceland. They go to Iceland and they get told it's really a wonderful place. It's just this rock. It's a rock with steam spewing out of crevices and stuff, right? But at one point, Floki takes off on his own and he goes deep into this cave. And there is a Christian cross. And there's actually historical evidence that could be true, that the Christian missionaries got to Iceland first.
Yeah.
And so I how any of this works, I don't know. But wouldn't be the first time that the borders changed.
No. Canada. Bring in Canada. We need all that oil. They need to be saved from.
That could get tricky. But
How about that?
Canada's pretty divided. Canada's pretty divided.
But what are your thoughts on Trudeau? Just like destroying the country, becoming the boyfriend
Well,
of a
Pierre
pop
Trudeau
singer.
is a perv. I think Trudeau is Castro's son.
I do too. The Cuban nipple crisis is real.
That's a funny story, but you look at Trudeau and you look at Castro when he's young, you go, oh boy, there's a paternity test needed for that one. And there's this one picture of Marie Trudeau, is that her name? Pierre's wife, who apparently was a floozy. I shouldn't say that way. I support floozies. But she's sitting there with Castro and he's cutting a cake or something. First of all, there's a photo of her. Castro's holding Justin. Castro's holding Justin with Pierre and Marie or whatever her name is. And she's looking at Castro in the most adoring look, as in like, oh no, that's her. That's the father of her child right there. But then there's a picture of her where Castro's cutting a piece of cake or something, and she's got his hand on his chest. Now, anyone knows who's been through middle school and high school is that once the chick puts her hand on your chest, you're going places. That is inside the personal space. On your back, a little sketchy. The chest, no, you're in good shape. You're good to go. And so I do think a DNA test. I don't know if I wouldn't choose that as my first choice. I think I'd choose Macron's wife to get a DNA test first, because that one would tell us whether or not she's a he and whether he is Emmanuel Macron's father. That's the one that I wanted the answer to. Is Macron married to his father? Oh.
That's a rabbit hole.
That one would be a real National Enquirer headline right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like do we have any effect on if that's true? Who knows?
Well, I think he's a dude.
Yeah.
So and the royal families in Europe have real problems. So like the King Charles, he had 4 influential guys in his life. All of them were pedophiles. All of them. The 4 guys, Mountbatten, there's a couple in the middle I can't quite remember. And then at the end, Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
It seems
a true demon.
Yeah. A real, the most prolific pedophile in history, arguably. Although that's probably a reach of a statement, but he certainly was famous, pedophile to the stars. And I think the royal families in Europe have a fundamental problem. I was on a Zoom call with Archbishop Carlo Vigano. That's a pretty cool Zoom call to be on. Number 3 at the Vatican. I didn't know the Vatican had ratings, so that could be wrong, but he had the Pope's ear, and he's the guy who ratted out the Vatican for covering up pedophilia, which doesn't shock me.
And he came out strong during COVID, too, right?
Came out strong during COVID. Doesn't shock me there's pedophilia among priests. What would shock me is if the Vatican was involved in child trafficking. Not shock me. That's the real story, I think. I haven't found evidence of that, but I think I will not be shocked if I do. But Vigano in the Zoom call comes right out of the gate. There's about 20 of us on the Zoom call with him, and says all of the leaders in Europe are pedophiles. And then he says, he actually said that Macron is married to a dude. And then he says, Obama's married to a dude. He didn't say dude, but that's my language. And then he went public with that. So that might have been not official yet, but he wrote that publicly. And what did they do to him? They excommunicated him, supposedly.
Yeah.
That's sending him to hell.
That's like, as a Catholic, it's like, is that an excommunicatable? I guess making those claims something that warrants excommunication. I don't think so. Shouldn't be,
but there's Vatican. the religion, Vatican tied to the religion. There's the Catholic Church, the religion, and there's Catholic Church, the financial entity. Mm-hmm. And they're very different things, right?
Yes.
The political financial entity. And heaven only knows the net worth of the Vatican. And you've seen the snake room at the Vatican?
Yeah.
For the three
altar.
people listening here, search snake room Vatican and look at the snake room.
It's an altar, right? It's
No, it's an entire auditorium. It's a 20,000 person auditorium.
yeah, but it's got like the crucifix in the background. It's like got the
It's got all sorts of weird shit in the background, but the entire auditorium looks like the head of a snake.
yeah.
And it's just, I go, why? I go, is that Adam and Eve maybe? I just don't know. I've wondered if the good versus evil, if the Vatican actually caters to both.
Well, there's hardcore Orthodox Catholics who think like the Vatican after Vatican II, like the church, the political side of it was taken over by like Luciferians, and it's
Right.
completely antithetical to what we're supposed to be doing as Christians.
I have read so much shit trying to understand this stuff. I'm reading a book right now about cults, and the one thing it appears to absolutely not be willing to do is in any way connect the cults to official sources, which is why I read the book. I don't need to read about some pervy guy. That's of no interest to me, but a pervy guy who was trained by Jolly West, then I care. They even went through Charles Manson and his cult and made no allusions whatsoever to him being tied to the CIA, which therefore I said, okay, so you guys blew it. Jim Jones, Reverend Jim Jones, who was very prominent in Republican circles for a long time. So the world appears to be a battle of good and evil. I'm not a religious guy, but when you use the term good and evil, you're this close to getting religious, right? I mean, it's hard to not say God, good versus evil. That sure sounds like something I'd hear on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, I believe in it.
Yeah. I think that's true. I'm not sure that it's an inherent aura in the world, but it's certainly there are people who are good and people who are evil.
Yeah, I like to think that you're one of the good guys, having gotten to know you over the years. And
well, if I'm not, I'm phenomenal, I think, at covering it. Now, there's still people who think I'm a limited hangout of some kind.
Really? I'm getting called
I
spook
wish I
too
get
these
paid
days.
for this.
Yeah, you get enough followers, you get immediately.
Oh, are you getting called on that?
Oh yeah. Particularly within Bitcoin, they think I'm some corrupted actor.
You're frozen right now.
Am I frozen? Am I good?
You're frozen completely. Oh, there you go. You're digitizing now. Hello? You can see me. You're not moving. You're doing a Mitch McConnell now.
God damn it.
You're frozen at the microphone.
There we go. I'm back.
There you go.
Got internet disconnection there.
No, you're frozen still.
Am I? Am I back? Am I good?
This would be
Logan?
funny to watch to see how it comes.
I think I'm back.
You're moving a little bit. You were frozen. You were doing, as I said, in case you couldn't hear me, you were doing a Mitch McConnell at the microphone.
Oh, we didn't get to expand on that. What's his wife's deal? Is she a Chinese actor? Remember her sister?
Probably.
Died in the Tesla on their property?
Well, which is the one whose sister's sister, who's deeply tied to the Chinese Communist Party? Is that Mitch's or is that Swalwell or?
Swalwell was hooking up with it.
The Democrats have got to get their shit together. We need a better team on the field.
Yeah, I mean, both sides do.
A spy.
Yeah.
You're frozen again.
I know. It's, God damn it.
You got to fire Logan. Get someone who knows how to run this operation. Logan, can you hear me?
There we go. I'm back. It's my internet connection.
It is.
Swalwell spy. I think
Is
it was
Logan there with you, or is he totally some other site? Is this
he's on part. He's in another part.
Some other site.
Yeah, he's in another part of the country. He just shows up with me with better internet.
Oh, okay. How many people do you have on staff?
There's 5 of us
on your podcasting staff.
Really, just on the podcast. Just there's probably 3 dedicated to the podcast, myself included. So.
Give me an estimate of what someone makes. Let's say you're a podcaster. I'm going to do a podcast in a week with Julian Dory, who
Jimmy
did
Dory?
the best 4-hour Julian Dory. Not Jimmy Dore. No, Julian.
Is he
Dory,
the guy? Is he the guy in Jersey City?
Yeah, he's a very Jersey boy. He's got a real Jersey delivery.
Yeah,
and he did the best 4-hour interview of Joe Kent. I did a 1-hour interview with Joe Kent, and a complete abortion, in my opinion, because it wasn't handled right. But Julian Dory did this 4-hour interview with Joe Kent. And not only did he get Joe Kent to really hit every topic, but Julian, you're frozen again.
Am I?
Maybe.
No.
Julian could stay with him the whole way. It was really extraordinary. So I posted. So I'm supposed to do a podcast with Julian, a 3-way with Julian, in about a week. I want to find out his backstory.
Are you going to
have a little bit of a?
Are you going in person?
No. Actually, he's an invite. We're both invites. We're doing it with Ferris.
Oh, nice.
But so let's say someone averages 100,000 eyeballs on YouTube. And has some commercials, has some ads probably and stuff like that. What's that guy going to make a year?
I mean, if he's doing it per episode, if he's doing like 2 episodes per week, that's 8 a month. It's close to 1 million views. Going rate, like $20 per 1,000 views is the going rate. For some ads, like
per 1,000 views.
Like
so when
15
someone
and 20.
brings me on and we get 5,000 views, they're making $100.
Around there, I think on YouTube, maybe. Yeah.
And if you're that low a level of podcaster, are you still making that, $20 per 1,000 views?
Yeah, on YouTube at least.
So YouTube, you don't have to get above some massive threshold to start getting paid?
No. I think you have to have over 3,000 subscribers and then you can begin monetizing and put a certain amount of videos on. But yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah.
$20 per 1,000. I can remember that number. I'm paid what I'm worth. Every penny.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the only money I've ever made was Bob Moriarty. Did the legwork, heavy legwork, paid for the editor to publish all my year in reviews, which turned out to be 17 of them, and uploaded them to Amazon. And I think I made about $5,000 off all the sales of those. The funny part was I had to write a dean's report, and I had wrapped up my research group, and I'm thinking, well, I didn't do shit, right? So I taught these 2 courses, but I didn't do shit. And so and then I thought about it. I go, wait a minute. I published 17 books this year. And it was crudely estimated at about, the total was something like 4,500 pages.
Holy
and
crap.
That year I had to go through them all and fix them and fix the graphics and it was a pain in the ass, but we got from 2009 to 2025 all out last year.
That's insane.
And it's on Amazon. And if anyone's listening, I know there's 3 or 4 of you left. Do you get paid based on clicks or do you get paid on total watch time? Do they have an algorithm that?
Yeah, it would have to be watch time, right? Because they insert the ads.
You would think.
Yeah, in certain parts of the show, depending on whether you're YouTube Premium or not. Yeah, we have much more. We have the newsletter. We do a bunch more stuff as well here. So
I know that. It's just that part I don't understand at all. So I don't need to know anything. But I was just wondering about the click count. I'm wondering why some guy bothers to bring me on to get 2,000.
I mean, some people are in it for the love of the game. I didn't get into.
Well, there are those guys. And just have a chat, as I like to say. We're just chatting, and if you want to record it and upload it, that's fine too. It's easy to forget it's getting uploaded. One time I was watching Candace Owens. I think she was on Rogan. And she said something. She said, well, you probably wouldn't want to say that on the internet. And Rogan said, you just did. Oh, well, keep an eye on this Charlie Kirk story, this Tyler Robinson story. I think there's much bigger geopolitical implications than a lot of people are giving it credit.
Well, I did notice like the big con come out and like sort of like take the party line script and like blast it out at the same time.
What bothers me, the people who have done that, I thought you were one of the good guys, and now you're not looking like one of the good guys to me. I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't understand. What I do know is it's so fucked up that if you're saying he's guilty of overwhelming evidence, you are lying. If you want to say, I don't know what's going on, it's fucked up, but I don't know the answer, you're not lying. You're truthful.
That's where I am. I have no idea.
That's right. But overwhelming evidence is, those compilations they do where they show, 20 people all saying exactly the same thing on the news.
This is dangerous. This is dangerous for our democracy.
Yeah, it's a danger to our democracy, and the irony of that one is particularly good. But I don't know. Life goes on. I sometimes wonder why I do any of this, but I'm retired now, essentially operationally retired, and I'm still on payroll. Well, they haven't shaken me off their payroll. I did so much for the university over the 45 years. If I hang on payroll for another year, I think they can suck it up.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for continuing to do it. I think the fact that you do stuff like this is great.
Well, I love it.
I always enjoy
born
these.
to talk. Born to talk.
Did you pee in a coffee?
No. Okay. I had most of my prostate taken out about a year or so ago, and as I said, I said I can get an 8-foot arc, and I can put out 14 ounces, which I was putting out a shot glass at a pop. It had an 1.5-inch bladder stone.
Ugh.
And it formed because my prostate had gotten too big. And so the guy said, you should have it taken out. So I did. And I said, 8-foot arc, 14 ounces. I said, those are two different experiments. I'm not that good. But now, next thing I'll probably get diabetic or something and then have to piss even more. But no. I can get through a whole 2-hour, 3-hour podcast with consuming beverage and not have to drain the lizard.
That's good to know. Well,
I know.
Hopefully next time we try to get Rudy to do this, he doesn't call in on a phone, and we can.
Yeah, was he on a phone? Is that what he was doing?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, he's got such wisdom and that throaty voice of his and stuff. You really get a sense of sincerity. Actually, for me, I remember years ago someone said, who else should I follow on Twitter? To Rudy. And he named 3 people. I was one of them. I go, so there is an affinity here. I thought it was just me. Maybe I had a Rudy. My favorite tweet of Rudy's, and it's when I first really spotted him. I started studying his tweets. When he says it's not fake. It's not like the Loch Ness Monster or North Dakota. And I go, this guy is funny. I mean, that is some serious funny. And so I started watching his style, sort of like studying, how Eddie Prinz or any, the comedians, how the great comedians do it. I started watching Rudy and said, how does he do it? He has this great sarcasm about him.
It's a great way of trolling the CNBC.
He picks fights. He's not afraid to pick fights. He doesn't. You know how journalists become captured when the people they're writing about they get too close to? Mm-hmm. Rudy doesn't suffer from that at all. So like I worry about Megyn Kelly being on the wrong team. But I also don't want to lose her. She was like, in Twitter bingo, getting followed by Megyn Kelly was one of those, oh, wow, that's cool. That's a grand slam Twitter follow, right? And
No, and that's one thing you have to worry about too, is like calling everybody a spook. And like I was saying earlier before my internet went out, and like people are like, "You're a spook, Marty." I'm like, God damn it! Like I'm just doing this.
Yeah,
like,
well, my son works for the CFR, so I get called a spook all the time for that.
yeah,
And maybe he is a spook, but he's good at keeping a secret, because I sure as hell, he doesn't tell me shit. Of course, on the other hand, what would I do with that information? I'd probably go spew it on a podcast. So he's smart not to let me in on the secrets that he knows. But he is useful. I say, what's the hot topic? And you'd be surprised sometimes when he tells you the hot topic. I said, isn't this a hot topic? You go, oh, no, there's no discussion of that whatsoever. And so there are things we think are important.
well, that gets into the idea, like, are there actually competent people running the show, or is it just completely random?
Well, he also says and maybe he's lying to me. I raised him through his teenage years, so I know he has lied to me. You'll really enjoy that phase when your kids are teenagers. Oh, they lie like teenagers. I'll tell you, they'll just their lips are moving. They're lying to you, and they'll treat you like shit too.
Oh,
But he says the council really doesn't have the agenda that people think they have. He said their agenda really is to get important people talking, getting them in the same room, and by doing that, keeping the world a little bit of a safer place.
Yeah.
And at one point I said something about, well, the blogs say that the council runs the world. And he said, well, someone has to. So he might have been only half joking. But I don't think the council is what it used to be with Alan Dulles or David Rockefeller. I think it's a much more neutral organization than it used to be. Yeah. And I went in there one day, he gave me a tour of the place, and he tells this very funny story of the council. Famous people can use the council for functions during the weekend, for example. And who's the woman who killed Bill? Uma Thurman. So he's sitting out on late one night with Ray, the security guard, and Uma Thurman comes out, and her chauffeur's there, and their chauffeur, Uma, walks her dog, and the dog takes a dump and doesn't clean it up. And Ray says, "Hey, you gonna clean that up?" And she, of course, doesn't give a shit about cleaning that up. So my son sort of scrambles and cleans it up because he's really good at that sort of thing of, smoothing over uncomfortable personalities. And I train him well. And then he says, you know who that is? He says, no. She says to Ray, do you know who I am? And Ray says, no. And she says, I'm Uma Thurman. And he says, my name's Ray. and then afterwards, Will says, you know who she is? She's in Kill Bill. And Ray goes, oh, yeah, okay. I thought I recognized her. He one day, he got to sit down and chat with Nelson Mandela for 45 minutes, met the president of Iran and Iraq the same day. Madeleine Albright on his first day of work is throwing a shit fit because something's wrong with her beverage or something. And he says, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And Greenspan, when he'd come in to talk, they send a body double in to make sure the chair was right and the microphone was right. And I'm thinking, oh, shoot that fuck. Of course, he died, so he solved the problem. Him and Lindsay are down in the hot spot. During COVID, I actually gave Rudy my password. Said, if I die, I want you to tweet from heaven. Right? You could have a field day, right? If you have a guy who's known to be dead, and he's tweeting from heaven saying, I don't see a sign of Lindsay up here. Nothing, no one's even heard of the guy. You could have a field day tweeting from heaven. Oh, we get lobster every fucking day. And oh my God, you can't believe how many times I banged, Marilyn Monroe. And
Going viral from the grave.
oh my God, yeah, it's like tweet of God. You can turn it into tweet of God level, And so and he says, oh, I'm not comfortable with this. I said, Rudy, it's my dying wish. He's too morally sound. I couldn't think of someone else I'd rather have do it, though. He would be phenomenal. Phenomenal.
The wit is very much aligned between you two.
Yeah, there's something there I like. He's smart. He's smarter than me, and he can remember shit better than me. My addled brain is gone. I just in one ear, out the other ear. He pulls up shit from the past. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. He's got those threads they're incredible. If you're not following Rudy, go follow Rudy. I've got to jump. This has been fun.
I'll let you go. Always.
Sort of got derailed because of Rudy's technical difficulties.
All our technical problems, yeah. The
happy.
R for retard, right? The R for retard.
We covered some bases though. Fourth turning. Prepare.
Fourth turning. That's the best model.
Yeah. All right.
Or Ray Dalio's six turnings.
Peace and love, freaks.
Wait a minute.
Thank you for listening to this episode of TFTC. If you've made it this far, I imagine you got some value out of the episode. If so, please share it far and wide with your friends and family. We're looking to get the word out there. Also, wherever you're listening, whether that's YouTube, Apple, Spotify, make sure you like and subscribe to the show. And if you can leave a rating on the podcasting platforms, that goes a long way. Last but not least, if you want to get these episodes a day early and ad-free, make sure you download the Fountain podcasting app. You can go to fountain.fm to find that. $5 a month gets you every episode a day early, ad-free, helps the show, gives you incredible value. So please consider subscribing via Fountain as well. Thank you for your time, and until next time. Okay.